Good morning, 49ers fans. Thanks for waking up with Damon Bruce and Larry Krueger. And my goodness, do we have a dominant, absolutely solid game to talk about. Larry, good morning. Niners fans, not just around the Bay Area, but all over the world are waking up feeling like they did after that 5-0 start. It's amazing what a bye week and a big win will do for the overall feeling around a football team. Good morning, brother.
Hey, what's going on, man? Good morning to everybody. Welcome to 49er Wake Up on a Monday, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle and Ike Sandwiches until we get a title sponsor for the Krug Show. We want to thank our good friends at Palmetto Superfoods for getting us rolling on the 49er Wake Up, and now we will carry it on without them. And if you would like to be the title sponsor of 49er Wake Up, definitely get a hold of us, and we would love to talk about it with you.
Absolutely. And hey, one more time, since we had an original 8-week agreement, the first half of the season with Palmetto. Now I can be honest about acai bowls, Larry. I really like them. I swear to God I did. I thought they were delicious. They're fantastic. I'm not done eating them. We thank Charles for a great kickoff, but we go forward. And again, we're open for business, and all we are right now is the single most consumed day after 49er football show coming out of the Bay Area. We're dwarfing both radio stations combined. And thank you so much for choosing us. We've got some really, really interesting things to talk about today.
Well, Larry, let's do takeaways, Damon. Why don't we start with takeaways?
Well, hold on. Before we go into takeaways, I kind of want to set it up because I think you and I were both operating from the same place. This isn't revisionist history. Now that things have gone well for the Niners, I truly thought, without it affecting his job status, Kyle Shanahan is secure in his job. He's not about to be fired or extended based on the result of any one game. Kyle's he's on a bigger journey than any one afternoon could ever represent. So admitting that it had nothing to do with job status, I thought it was one of the biggest games in Kyle Shanahan's career. I really did, Larry. I thought that in every other way, a football game that's important, that needs to turn your season around, that needs to set a tone, in every way a football game can be big. That was a big game for Kyle, and it was one of his best afternoons. It was one of his coaching staff's best afternoons. I'm looking at you, Steve Wilks. You've been in the crosshairs. Come down from the box, put your feet on the ground, and the pockets start collapsing. It's like biblical all of a sudden. That was a really, really good afternoon of football for everyone attached to the Niners, and Kyle needed it, Larry. They needed that.
No doubt, Jamin. It's a great point. I mean, we talked a lot about a topic all week that really, I don't think at the end of the day matters, and we can debate that how much it mattered. But Steve Wilks moving from the booth to the sideline was just such a backfire, or such a minor subplot to the bigger story, which was the 49ers were getting beat the old-fashioned way on the line of scrimmage. And when you watch this game on the defensive line, man, that 4 is nasty. And if they can keep the foursome, the quartet, if you will, of the guys inside, Hargrave, who clearly had his best game, Armstead, who's been very, very consistent, with now Chase Young and Nick Bosa, their front 4 can get it done. Now they still are going to have to, get it done with depth up front. So it's going to matter who else plays on that D line, but their first team D line is as good as there is probably in this league. And then offensive line wise, they were much better in this game. And I thought that was really interesting, just from the standpoint of they were down a man and they were going with Trent Williams at less than 100%. But I thought John Feliciano, upon review of the film last night, just is a very solid, strong, veteran offensive lineman. It doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And the Niner O-line bounced back with a really strong performance. They finally opened some run lanes for Christian McCaffrey. And then overall, I would say, that O-line, D-line would be my first takeaway. And Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy was outstanding. I mean, the first touchdown to Ayuk was like a no, yes kind of a moment. But he broke out of what was probably the worst stretch of his young career with maybe one of his best all-around games. I mean, he was patient when he needed to be. He was aggressive when he needed to be. He showed plenty of arm strength. For those of you who said that he couldn't make those throws downfield, he completed 3 touchdown passes, each of which traveled more than 20 yards in the air. He was excellent against pressure. And I would say that's what really stood out to me in this game was, first the line of scrimmage and then Brock.
As we talked about yesterday, doing a little post game together, I hopped on the Krug show to join you and your crew. You asked what was your biggest takeaway? And I still, after watching the game again, Larry, the 49ers are at their best when they're playing with violence. Defensive violence, offensive violence, when the offensive line is scaring people, when Trent Williams is down there looking to take a safety's head off and that safety's making career decisions and
running backwards.
Yeah, really. When Christian McCaffrey is just absolutely dead to rights, stopped in his track and still falls forward for 6 yards because Spencer Burford comes up and does like a one-man tush push behind him. I mean, there was just a level of dialed in and violent and seeking contact that was absent from the 3-game losing streak, if we're being completely honest. So I thought it was a return to normalcy for the 49ers. They looked an awful lot, if not better, than some of the performances we saw during the 5-0 start. And, look, this isn't an overreaction because Larry and I were actually talking about some of these things while the 3-game losing streak, while the 5 interceptions over 3 games was happening for Brock Purdy. He was still doing some extraordinary things. Larry, I don't know how anyone could keep him out of the conversation of top 10 best quarterbacks in football today. I really don't. I don't know how you can keep him now. You're going to have to actively find ways to keep him out of that conversation. The man entered the game with the best QBR in the NFL. So, you can't get much better than number 1. Brock Purdy finished his afternoon in Jacksonville with a career-high passer rating of 148.9. The 49ers offense has now scored 30 or more 6 times this season. That is the most in the NFL. And he, beyond the one throw that was a touchdown to Ayuk, but as he was making that throw, he broke every single on-field cardinal rule that you could possibly break as a quarterback. Don't want to see that again, Brock. That's one of those, the process matters more than the result. And I'm sure Kyle is going to say, this is your worst throw of the afternoon. This touchdown is your worst throw of the afternoon. Never do that again, Brock. But it is that, cocksure attitude that I think separates a good quarterback from just an average quarterback. And Brock believes he can do shit with the football that other guys can't. And some days that'll bite him. And some days it'll bring the 49ers into the victory column. And I thought in Jacksonville, it was one of those days. Purdy is a player. He's not the guy you'd build in a player creation mode. He doesn't have the physical attributes that Trey Lance has, but I would not take Trey Lance as a team's quarterback before I take Brock Purdy, just based on the 8 games of this season alone, the 9 games that these guys have both now played. Brock is outplaying Trey Lance in every and all conceivable ways, essentially. So they're not Trey Lance, but Trevor Lawrence, pardon me.
I was like, why are we going back to Trey Lance?
Yeah, no, Trevor Lawrence is who I meant. That's the guy that he was playing again. Look, Brock Purdy's season already is littered with top tier, higher paid, higher drafted quarterbacks that he has beaten thoroughly outdueled them. And I know that quarterbacks aren't necessarily playing against each other, but the NFL always likes to frame that conversation. I just don't understand how anyone could look at what Brock has done and try to figure out what he isn't before they just start accepting what he is. What he is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There you go.
It's so interesting because if you threw out the question this morning, who would you rather take, Brock Purdy or Trevor Lawrence? Most football fans would take Trevor Lawrence and wouldn't think twice. And then they will give the, even though they'll insult Shanahan left and right and suggest he's on the hot seat when he's nowhere near it. The first thing that they'll say is, could you imagine Trevor Lawrence in this offense with Kyle Shanahan and these weapons? It's like, he would be incredible. So, and who knows, because we're never going to see it, but, one guy's got the central casting looks and attributes of size, stature, arm strength, speed, toughness. I mean, I love Trevor Lawrence as a prospect. The other guy is just, doesn't look the part, but man, he just keeps getting it done. And at this point, yesterday, if you didn't see the box, 19 of 26 for Purdy, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a 148.9 passer rating. They did sack him a couple times, but in some ways, Damon, this was his greatest test. You're on the road. Your team's lost 3 in a row. You're going up against a Jacksonville team that's won 5 in a row, that entered the game yesterday leading the NFL with 18 takeaways. So that's their MO, right? They take the ball away, and your MO in the last couple of weeks is you're giving it away. So mix in some pressure, with Super Bowl expectations and the iconic 49er franchise with 65% of the stadium, wearing red. There's some serious pressure to win that game on the road against a Jaguar team that rolled in with tons of confidence. So I thought in a lot of ways, Purdy was outstanding. Shanahan on the touchdown throw, he says that was like one of the worst decisions he's made since he's been here. It took me a while to get over it, but I thanked him for the touchdown. The number, though, Damon, that jumps out to me with Purdy is what he does against pressure. He was pressured on a career-high 50% of his dropbacks yesterday, and he threw against pressure for a career-high 143 yards. He went 8 of 12 and 2 touchdowns on those passes against pressure. Against pressure this year, or again, pressure in his career, he's got 8 touchdowns and 1 pick. So, the consistency is there. I mean, Mike Martz was comparing him to Joe Montana after the game. I won't go there out of respect for Joe and not wanting to apply any pressure to Brock. And I don't believe he's in Joe's category. I really don't.
Right, well, look, any quarterback has a couple good games in the row. They're compared to Joe Montana or Tom Brady these days.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Well, especially if you play for the Niners.
Right.
But I forget Joe. But just, the thing about Brock Purdy is one thing that's just so undeniable is he is clearly able to operate this system efficiently and effectively. And he's good enough. What we can debate it forever, but to me, the real story was he's always been good enough. But, we have to give this guy, he's still a young guy. He's barely played. You got to give him a few games here and there to kind of adjust his dials to how much risk versus how much reward, when and late over the middle in a crowd should be like number one rule against. And that's exactly what he broke to get that first touchdown. But he's, I'd rather have a guy who's super aggressive, who's always looking to make plays, like a young Brett Favre, even though these guys physically looked much different.
No, compare him to Brett Favre.
I know, but I'm just saying, as far as like he goes, I'd rather have a quarterback that's trying to make a play and rein that guy in than a guy who's super captain check down and you're trying to dial him up to take chances. I'd much rather choke it back than try to build somebody into something that they're not naturally. And I thought the Niners did a great job at the line of scrimmage in this game, and Brock benefited from it. But Brock made several big time throws, down the field. And, I think we need to stop jumping give this guy what he needs, which is he's going to have some up games, he's going to have some down games. But I think it's pretty clear the 49ers have their guy going forward. It's just a matter of, can they build up the offensive and defensive lines around him? And can he take care of the football? Get it to his weapons, operate the offense efficiently, and win games. And yesterday was good enough to beat almost anybody in the league.
Damon Bruce and Larry Krueger, good morning to you. Welcome to 49ers Wake Up. Ramon Gonzalez, incredible the hours Larry puts in. Cat scaredy face. I don't know why, but he's a hardworking man. But yeah, we don't need to bask in how hard you work. Get that comment down. Make the screen pretty, Larry. Get our.
We also have this one.
There we go.
Shanghai Kelly, who maybe any connection to the bar. Shanghai Kelly became a YouTube member. Shanghai. Welcome aboard.
That's a big Steelers bar, by the way. Shanghai Kelly's on Polk Street in San Francisco. Big Steelers bar.
Okay. You know who used to hang out there quite a bit?
Who?
After Giants games, the great Brian Sabian.
Oh, I didn't know that
he was a regular at Shanghai Kelly's. Ned Coletti. Those guys would pop into a Shanghai Kelly's. I won't say they didn't.
All right. Well, look at it this way. I liked them before. I think I like them even more now. Before we get into our patented just the facts, Larry, I do want to, since we've been talking about Brock Purdy, just kind of go over the resume of this year. Okay. I just want to talk about the matchups that he's been in and what he's done. If we were to make an argument about who this guy is in the hierarchy and the pecking order, which is all the shows that are unlike ours, that's like the only thing they want to talk about. We want to actually talk football and what happened in a game. We don't want to come up with mythical, always moving lists. It's lazy to me. But I'll play along just for a minute because I think we got an argument that is just, the guy's a top 10 quarterback in football right now. I don't care what propagandist told you that he threw all those training camp interceptions. It doesn't matter because here's who he is. In week 1, Larry, he outduels Kenny Pickett, who was taken in the first round of the same draft where Brock obviously was the last pick. In week 2, I wouldn't say that he outdueled Stafford, who was the number 1 pick in his class, but he held his own. He made no mistakes, and the 49ers won that game. In week 3, he has a 2-touchdown game and a romp over the New York Giants, who bring in Daniel Jones, who, even though he was non-functional, is a first rounder and was the second quarterback taken in his draft class. In week 4, he beats Josh Dobbs. And look, beating Josh Dobbs now is more impressive than it was in the week that he did it. Dobbs is now 2-0 with the Vikings. And oh, by the way, in that game, he completed 95% of his passes. In week 5, he completely outplays the $160 million man, Dak Prescott, with a 4-touchdown day and beats what was at the time the number 1 ranked defense in football. In week 6, he has his worst game of his career against Cleveland, and he throws his first interception. In weeks 7 and 8, he throws 2 more picks in Minnesota and then 2 more picks against Cincinnati. But all that anybody could talk about was those interceptions. Everyone missed the fact that along with those bad interceptions, Brock Purdy also in back-to-back weeks completed 70% of his passes in back-to-back weeks, along with 713 total yards from scrimmage in the air and on the ground in those 2 losses, where outside of the interceptions, he was phenomenal. Now, again, outside, it's like, other than the ending, how'd you enjoy the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Right. I understand. But he was phenomenal. And oh, by the way, in those 2 losses, he was outplaying the quarterback with the first guaranteed contract in NFL history. And then he was playing against the number 1 overall pick that Joe Burrow represented to the Bengals. And then in Jacksonville on Sunday, against another number 1 overall pick, Mr. Irrelevant outduels him with a 3-touchdown day and the best passer rating of his career. Brock Purdy's season is littered with successful data points. He's just kind of getting better as the year goes along, and he is beating anyone who dare be drafted in front of him or paid more than him for the most part. The guy has been remarkable. To sum up Brock Purdy's start to his career, it dwarfs and overshadows most guys who have gold jackets sitting in Canton. And it's still not good enough for some people. And I don't care about those people anymore. The opinion of what some people think Brock is or isn't doesn't matter. The statistics are bearing that the 49ers have their franchise guy. If he is this good, 17, 18 starts into his career, what's year 4 going to look like for Brock Purdy if he stays healthy and in this system? So, Larry, this guy is unbelievable. It's a Disney movie come to life.
I mean, 28 touchdowns, 9 picks is what he's done in his career and won a ton of games. I mean, this year, 15 touchdowns, 5 picks for the regular season. He's projected for the year for 28 touchdowns and 9 picks. completing 68.8% of his passes. He's been good. He's been good. He's been good a lot more than he's been bad. You know, and you just got to roll with it. It's not a straight line. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days.
Right. Progress isn't linear. It's not all hockey stick level growth. There will be ups and downs, and that's the way it goes for everyone. It's just the way it goes. There is no reset button when you throw that first pick interception in a game of Madden, which I'm sure half of his critics always do when they throw a first quarter interception. There's a guy named Teasy on your chat who says, name one team he's played that had a better roster. I'll wait. No, I'm not going to allow you to move a totally fictitious field goal that it doesn't matter what you think of the opponent. Every NFL opponent is an NFL opponent on the schedule, and Brock can't control that. All he can do is go out and play the team that he's playing against. That's it. That's all. That's all he can do. And the team that was playing better was the Dallas Cowboys, and they're still playing really good football. And he eviscerated them with this 4-touchdown afternoon. Like, I don't want to hear that Brock's opponents aren't good enough for you to say that he is now good enough to be this team's quarterback. Here's what he does. He goes out in games and he mostly fucks shit up against anyone who tries to beat him. That's what he does. Well, he doesn't have the big come from behind game yet. Well, it's usually because his team is pulling him out of the fourth quarter because they're so far ahead. We've seen Sam Darnold understudy more for Brock Purdy than we ever saw backups go in for Jimmy Garoppolo or anyone else. I mean, it's amazing the position he has them in week after week after week. Stop trying to come up with a fictitious scenario in your own mind that Brock needs to clear. You know, your mental hurdle, you're trying to be Nick Wright or Skip Bayless question. It's not a gotcha moment as much as it is a total realization that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it's too. I mean, I'm watching Nick Wright. The other, when guys like Purdy lose, it's like, oh wow, this guy's not the guy. And then when he wins, it's like, they just don't notice it. Or, Nick Wright is so far down he's already debating when he fails. Should the Niner brass be taken to task for the Trey Lance situation? It's like they've owned it. I mean, how many times do you want to say, hey? Kyle Shanahan went to the podium, and you can say Kyle Shanahan is not great at self-criticism if you want. But if you were there in the room like I was that day, that he owned that. He basically was like, hey, I blew this. I blew the Trey Lance thing. I failed Trey Lance. I failed this organization. This is not a good day. This is, we're moving on, but I failed here. I mean, I don't know what else you want. You want to be publicly flogged? I'm not sure exactly what you need, but he's admitted failure on the Trey Lance pick. And they're going forward with Brock Purdy. And he's lucky them because he's number one in the NFL in QBR. And yesterday on the road in a gotta-have-it game, he threw 3 touchdown passes and didn't turn it over against a team that leads the NFL in takeaways. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not saying believe me, you gotta roll with it. I mean, do you believe in Brock Purdy? It's like as soon as Brock Purdy had a couple turnovers, people were just running as fast as they can to Twitter. That's what I was talking about. That's what I knew. That blah 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 blah. And it's like, hey, you know what? I think Brock's pretty good. Whether he wins tomorrow or loses tomorrow, whether he turns it over tomorrow or doesn't turn it over tomorrow, I think generally he's proven over the long haul that he can run this offense and he can execute this offense. And that's really what it's about. He can execute the offense and he can get the ball to his weapons. And I mean, the guy made a lot of plays yesterday, a lot of plays.
What people have to understand. Yeah. Well, I think what people have to understand is that there will be no singular afternoon of football that is a referendum on whether Kyle Shanahan or Brock Purdy is the right guy for the job. They're the right guys for the job as this team is currently built. There is no changing it to accommodate the over-panicking desires of a fan base who, again, does not know how football operates in so many different levels.
Well, people are knee-jerk. I mean, that's it. The NFL is such a compelling show that Overreaction Monday around the league is a thing.
It's
I
big
mean,
business.
ESPN's got a headline, Judging the Biggest Overreactions for NFL Week 10 by Dan Graziano. It's like, this is a thing. It's not like we're like, oh, hey, Niner fans overreact. Football fans overreact because there's 17 seasons, and every week is a new season unto itself.
17 games, yeah.
Every game, yeah. And Fred Warner said it. Hey, guys, in the locker room, he's like, we're not going to get caught looking ahead anymore. We're going to take them one at a time. Now, whether that was true, whether it was fatigue, whether their opponents were just better than them, whatever. It's the ebb and flow of an NFL season. That's why even the greatest Niner teams that were super dominant, that had Joe and Steve and Pro Bowlers and All Pros everywhere you look, coaching depth that was the envy of the league, none of those teams ran the table. The greatest Niner teams of all time still lost a couple games along the way. I mean, 84 Niners were 15-1. 89 Niners, I think, were 14-2, something like that. Those are two of the best teams that ever played. So you're going to lose a couple games along the way, no matter what. So it's just the way it is. But it's one of those things. The images are incredible. So and they're very powerful. So when you win, it's like, oh, already the debate this morning. Are the 49ers now back to being the favorite in the NFC because of this win? Man, the defense had 5 sacks and Jacksonville ran for 59 yards and the offense scored 30-plus points for the 6th time this year. And now they've got a dominant defensive line and, the coverage was better and Wilks is on the field. All these like positives where going into the game, it was like, man, they can't tackle. They can't rush. They're not getting home. So let's get into some of the particulars on why they got it done yesterday. I would say the thing watching that film again, this is the best 49er front four they've had going back a long ways beyond D Ford and Bosa and the team that went to the Super Bowl. Chase Young is better than that version of D Ford, even though D had a decent year that year, his last big hurrah. But Chase Young's stronger at the point, and I think he's got more overall moves where D Ford was strictly a speed rusher. And I really love the way the Niner D-line. I told Willard on Friday that the key factor in this game was going to be the Niner D-line was going to rule the day over that Jacksonville O-line. And, man, their D-line really kicked butt. But none of it works, Damon, if the coverage on the back end is not coordinated. And that's what I felt like we saw on the back end. You had a good pass rush up front, but you had a well-coordinated back end that if Lawrence even completed a pass, that was fine because the Niner defender was right there in position to make the tackle and not give up any yards after the catch. I thought the coordinated defensive effort was the number one thing of the day.
I thought that even though he drew a few flags that you'd rather have him not draw, Mooney Ward made among the biggest plays of the afternoon, breaking up that touchdown pass to Christian Kirk in the end zone. I thought that Ambry Thomas played well. And look, is it addition by subtraction in terms of a lower snap count for Isaiah Oliver? It's hard to say it isn't.
I thought that was the key. I mean, Oliver has been the weakness. Teams have completed 100% of the passes against him. They took him off the field and essentially replaced him with Ambry Thomas, even though the guy who manned his position was Lenore. So Lenore kicked inside. Ambry worked outside. Ambry's had a very interesting career. We should probably isolate him for just a second, Damon, just because, he was the 3rd-round pick, and there was talk coming out of the draft process that year that the guy who really banged the table for him was Adam Peters. And you're talking about a guy who was picked 102nd overall. This was the 49ers 2021 3rd-round draft choice out of Michigan. In a lot of ways, he's got the prototypical measurables of what you're looking for in a corner. He's 6 feet, 195. He's very strong. He's got great speed. He's got really above average coverage ability, but he's been inconsistent. And I talked to him about it in camp. He was very candid about how he had some success in that first year. And then all of a sudden he came back in that second year and he thought he didn't need to work. And he kind of just thought everything was going to kind of fall into place. And he had that second year slump where he was a non-factor. And he went into this last off season going, man, I've got to kind of find my myself or I'm not going to have a career. And he showed up this summer just hell-bent on winning a job and really played his best football. And is he a perfect player? No, but he's a very talented athlete. And, a lot of times the best, what you really need in the NFL against premier athletes is you got to be a premier athlete. So that's what he is. I mean, if you go look at his athletic profile, he's a very, very good athlete. He's a kid from Detroit who went to Michigan, always highly rated. He was a top 100 recruit. He went to Martin Luther King High School in Detroit. And, he's now starting to fulfill that potential. And sometimes it happens right away. And I'm not saying he's going to be, awesome, but he is he's a tough, feisty, fast press man corner. They played more man coverage yesterday. I think that's cause and effect. The fact that they played more man and he played more. So he's got a good feel for man coverage, and he's physical in coverage, and that sometimes leads to penalties. But he's got great tracking skills because he was a high school wide receiver. He's got great ball skills, and he made the play of his life that unfortunately was interrupted with the 49ers leaving the sideline, which could have been a disastrous situation. But Ambry Thomas, the forced fumble recovery, 91-yard touchdown return. I mean, that was absolutely one of the plays of the year.
It was, I think, important for his development. And again, I think one of the most unreasonable things is that everyone expects that the new player on their team is going to instantly, day one, perform like a future Hall of Famer. I mean, there's no room for progress. You'd think that, coming from the Bay Area, people would know that, sometimes you got to uncork the wine and let it breathe before it's really ready to serve. And a lot of these guys need a little breathing time in football. They need to go out and learn mistakes, and they need to feel the game. And there's always going to be a weak spot. And that weak spot's going to be attacked over and over again. You saw Diamador Lenore on the wrong side of a few plays yesterday because he got identified as the weak spot when he moved inside. And this is what good teams do. They hunt weak spots. That's what they're out there doing. And so much of this game is, can my third best wide receiver beat your third best cornerback? That's where most NFL games are decided. I mean, we always talk about stars. We're obsessed with fantasy stats, but stars can't be stars on every play. Eventually, the depth chart needs to perform for you or it works against you. Yesterday, the Niners were a touch better at their third corner than we saw the Jaguars at their third wide receiver. And still, as much as that was a lopsided game, there are 3 or 4 plays that had the Jaguars actually hit them. The way that game rolls out, it feels much differently. All of these games, even the ones that look like lopsided blowouts, are closer than you think. There's so much talent in this league. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday, Larry, was, yes, you can come away saying Hargrave and Nick Bosa and Chase Young. This team goes to the Super Bowl based on what Javon Kinlaw is about to do, what Eric Armstead is about to do, what other guys who come in as rotation players, Cleveland Farrell, Randy Gregory, those will be the guys that make the plays that determine whether this year is good or special. And that's where you have to feast. That's where you have to win as the Niners, with the strength of your depth. And while everyone is paying attention to the star power on the outside, you got guys eating on the inside, collapsing pockets. And that's where Trevor Lawrence had nowhere to go yesterday. I said, Chase Young, they need to add a corner. They need to add a corner. They need to add a corner. It's because I really thought that there's just no room in the NFL to get to a quarterback anymore because everyone gets the ball out so fast. And there was a sequence, like a 14-play drive that led to the only field goal of the afternoon for the Jaguars, where they totally went to the screen game, and it started working. They were just ball snap, ball out, ball snap, ball out. And that's the most effective they were, and it worked for a little while. The 49ers kind of crept towards the line of scrimmage. They shut that down, and then when the Jaguars tried to go back to playing 5-7 strep drop football, Trevor Lawrence, again, got sacked 5 times and ended up with 4 takeaways. The 49ers defense did. So
I think a lot of that was the back end too. I mean, that was, you go back and watch that film again. There was times he had time to throw, but there was nobody open. The coverage was really, really tight. The funny thing is,
game, Larry Hufanga, who'd not had a few good games, he had a really good game,
and he's had some really subpar games. I mean, I love Hufanga. I think he's a great guy, but I mean, he had some really subpar games. Same with Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave clearly had his best game. 1.5 sacks, 3 pressures. He had a couple times where he had a pressure that led to a sack for another 49er. He had the pressure that led to an interception. He had a pass rush win rate of 33%, which was the best on the team. He had a run stop win rate yesterday of 71%, which was best on the team. So, we weren't even sure Thursday when they had the knee flare up if Hargrave was even going to go. And then he comes out and he plays his best game. But, I thought it was ironic as hell because I asked Kyle Shanahan a question last week at the press conference. I said, Kyle, you came out after the Cincinnati game, after you watched the film, not in the post game, but the next day. And you told us, my team looked tired. My team looks slow. I said the bye week is going to address the tired, right? But where are you going to inject additional speed? And he smiled and he's like, you got any ideas for me? And I'm like, yeah, how about Danny Gray? He's like, well, that's one guy. And then he kind of sloughed it off and was like, I wasn't talking about an individual. I was talking about our overall team speed. We look slow as a team and we need a number of guys to kind of freshen up and play faster. But sure enough, when it was time to making a personnel adjustment for this game, he was sandbagging me because that's exactly what the 49ers did. They took Isaiah Oliver, who runs 4.6, 4.7, off the field, and they replaced him with Ambry Thomas, who runs a 4.4 flat. And some people think in Michigan in the pre-draft that he tested in the high 4.3s. And they put a faster, better athlete on the field outside, moved Lenore into the slot, and suddenly their coverage was better. So to me, the headline today is going to be Steve Wilks moved to the sideline and he fired him up. That's a bunch of crap because the key to pass coverage is pass coverage. You got to have big time athletes. They do have one in Ambry Thomas, but he wasn't playing because they don't trust him. They coached him up, trusted him, started him outside, moved Lenore inside, and they put their 3 best cover athletes all on the field at one time. The bye week freshened up Ward a little bit, and they added Chase Young up front. And the combination of you added Chase Young up front, and you get a healthy Ward and Greenlaw, and you add Ambry Thomas and subtract Isaiah Oliver, that's it. That was why the Niners were better yesterday. They added speed to their defense, and it showed. You got to have speed. You can't just fake it. And he sloughed it off, and then he did it. I said, how are you going to inject speed? He's like, you got any ideas? And then they injected literal speed in Thomas over Oliver, and that was the difference, I thought. I really thought that was the difference.
Welcome to 49ers Wake Up. Damon Bruce, Larry Kruger. It's wonderful to have you here. Hit like, hit subscribe. Boy, if you are already subscribing to Larry, please come on over, hit subscribe over on my channel, and certainly vice versa. 49ers Wake Up continues to roll. It's taken over the Bay Area every morning after the Niners play. Larry, are we going to do a Friday after the Thanksgiving game, or should we wait till Monday? Because we're going to have to figure that one out. We'll have our production meeting, I guess, off the air, but that's something that I've been thinking about. It's time.
I'm up for it. I may be working that day, but I'll definitely be up for a little Friday after Thanksgiving. We call it the Tryptophan Hangover Edition.
Yes.
Of the Bruce Kruger Extravaganza.
Brought to you by a fantastic nap.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but when we worked together back at Sports Byline back in the day, this is mid 90s.
Yes.
One of the first shifts I ever had was I told the guy, I'm like, hey, you know what I can do? I heard I was doing sales for them. I heard their shows, and I'm like, I think I'm pretty sure I can do that. The guy's like, I don't know, you have no experience. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty damn sure I can do it. Anyway, so finally he's like, well, maybe you could fill in during the holidays. I'm like, great, let me know. Sure enough, they're like, hey, we need someone to host Sports Overnight America. When? Thanksgiving night. Right? And they give me no notice. They told me, asked me like that morning. The guy doesn't want to do it. It's Thanksgiving. So I'm like, okay. It was a 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. show. Have a full Thanksgiving dinner at my mom's house. She then gives us, like was walking out. She like made like back in those days, she used to like make like 2 turkeys with like 30 people in the house. She just gives me these 4 just awesome fat turkey breast sandwiches, wraps them in foil, puts them in my duffel bag. I start doing the show. I'm like an hour in. I'm like, I'm starving, man. I start wolfing down a couple of turkey sandwiches.
It's like taking sleeping pills.
I mean, this is like one of the first shows I've ever done. The last hour of the show, I'm like,
yeah, Larry,
I'm starting to. I was literally falling asleep on the air, high on turkey sandwiches.
Content was good. Needs to work on energy.
Yeah, his energy in the last couple hours was not good in his debut show.
Look, you can't come up in radio and not have worked a few like Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas night shifts. It's just part of it. Everyone's the low man on the totem pole at some point in time. I remember running boards on Thanksgiving at KNBR, doing the Thanksgiving game on 1050, and one night, one of the nicest gestures ever made to me on Thanksgiving was, do you remember Carl Kelsick? Of course you do,
yes,
right?
Great guy.
Great guy. Carl Kelsick comes in with a late plate for me, brings me in a plate of Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of just me, the only guy working in a radio station. I'll never think of a Thanksgiving without thinking of how happy I was to see Carl walking in with a plate stacked like this for me. Here you go, fat boy. Enjoy your night in the radio station. So
that's awesome. The great Carl Kelsick gets a shout out.
Love that.
Great radio name from the past. We have some supers, Damon.
Yeah.
David says, Moody will forever have me nervous. We'll get to the kicker. Yeah, I mean, the field goal just inside the upright.
Hey, you know what?
The extra point that kind of goes from left to right. And
counts the same as the one that goes straight down the middle. As long as it's in between the goalposts, I don't think there's any room to complain. I really don't. Like the guy,
Robbie Gould is not walking through that door. Is that what you're saying?
No, he's not. He's not walking through any door. He's obviously on a beach somewhere, not interested.
He actually worked out for the New York Giants, and they went with a different kicker. So I think we do have indications that Robbie at least is open to kicking. It's just a matter of, is he going to get a gig?
Can he play quarterback for the New York Giants?
Ben DeMarco says, hey, guys, love the show. Love your show. Appreciate you, Ben. Have a great morning today. Jesse Wade says, when we win, this team is so good. When we lose, he's not the guy. Bunch of absolute horse shit. Can Brock get better? Yes. But he is effing. Is he effing good? Yes. Yeah, Jesse, that's well said. It's like, I get it. It's like, what you saw yesterday rules the day. So today it's like, yeah, Brock's great. And then next week, if he throws a pick, it's like, they got to look for a guy. He's not the guy. It's like, I think it's safe to say that he's going to have some ups. He's going to have some downs. I think he's already today quite a bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I think good things are going to happen.
He's Kyle Shanahan's best quarterback since Matt Ryan's MVP season. Full stop.
And as far as where he ranks, he's a top half of the league quarterback. I would say any given day, you could say you would prefer him over any number of guys that maybe even have better looking physical stature and, seem like they're more blue chip. But the one thing the guy does is he can run an offense. He can process what he sees.
Here's a question for you. You don't have to answer it right now. Maybe you think about it throughout the show and then come back to me when you got it. What quarterback in the NFC would you rather have over Brock Purdy? NFC quarterbacks only. Jalen Hurts, it's an easy answer, and I'll give it to you. Now who? Now what?
NFC quarterback. Daniel Jones, no. New York Giants. I would say no to Prescott. I don't want Prescott. Sam Howell, no. Fields and whatchamacallit in Chicago, no.
Right.
Goff,
Would you rather have Jared Goff? No. Would you
Love.
rather have
There have
Kirk-
been people that said they'd rather have Love. I would rather have Purdy. I'd rather have Purdy than Cousins. I'd rather have Purdy than Ritter or Heineke. I'd rather have Purdy than the rookie in Carolina, though I do like him. I'd rather have Purdy than Carr. Rather have Purdy than Baker. Rather have Purdy than Kyler, though I do like Kyler, actually. I'd rather have a young Stafford than Purdy, for sure.
Right, but at this point in their career, who you taking?
Yeah, right now, Stafford's 35 and hurt.
I'd rather have Purdy than Geno.
Definitely rather have Purdy than Geno. Yeah,
so by process of elimination, he's the second best quarterback in his own conference, is what I'm saying. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like the process of elimination, I don't think it's that far out. Now, if you start incorporating AFC quarterbacks, Brock starts moving down the list because you're talking about the creme de la creme de la creme. And now CJ Stroud is officially throwing himself into a conversation that no one really expected him to be in. Who's
the third best? I mean, the top three in the AFC, or, whatever order: Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, or Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar. I don't know. Right. I mean, but now you're starting to wonder down the road, is Herbert going to be in there? Is Stroud going to be in there?
Is Tua going to remain in that conversation?
Is Tua going to be there? Is Levis going to get there in Jacksonville? Is Lawrence going to be the guy? Is Anthony Richardson eventually?
Aaron Rodgers gets to go into like one of those Star Wars tanks where you get better instantly and comes back in December. First of all, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I think he loves the attention.
I bet the Raiders last night. I could not believe in the pregame show how many of the people on NBC picked the Jets. I mean, I know it's the Raiders, but the Raiders were at home with a coach that they're at least playing hard for, and they still have a running back. And did nobody see the Jets game last week? I mean, the Jets were just atrocious.
Right. You have a non-functional offense.
I mean, they were atrocious last week. So, I mean, I couldn't believe that. I'm watching this pregame show. I'm like, did anybody watch the Jet game on national TV last week? They were terrible. So, anyway, but no, right. Let's back to the Niners. To the Niners.
Hit like, hit subscribe. It is good to have you here on 49ers Wake Up. Let's go with just the facts. These are not opinions. These are facts. Fact: Brock Purdy finished with a career-high passer rating in Jacksonville. He was 148.9. This is a guy who came into the game with the best QBR in the NFL and will probably still be there depending on what Josh Allen does tonight, because I think he's nipping at his heels, or vice versa, depending on whoever had a better game. But Purdy played excellently in Jacksonville. It's not to be debated. George Kittle has now had back-to-back 100-yard games for the second time in his career. He scored his fourth touchdown of the season. The 49ers have scored 30 or more points 6 separate times this year, which is the most of any team in football. And this might, Larry, drift into a little bit of an opinion, but I believe it is correlation, causation, whatever you want. But you say athletes matter. Well, two of the best athletes on the team show back up in Debo Samuel and Trent Williams. And what do you know? All of a sudden, you're running for 144 yards against one of the stingiest, toothiest run defenses in all of football. The Jaguars were top 3 against the run. But, Debo and Trent return, running game pops. There's no coincidence there, Larry. That's related.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can talk football every week, but the one thing that is just a constant is that for the most part, you win in the NFL when you can run the ball and stop the run. And the Niners on the surface couldn't do that against Cincinnati. Cincinnati ran for 5-4 a carry. The Bengals ran for 5 yards a carry. Even Burrow gashed them with the run. The Niners couldn't stop the run at all, falling off tackles, missing tackles, not coming out of gaps, not coming off of blocks. Neither safety did anything in the run game. This week, Hufanga was fantastic, and defensive linemen got off blocks, and the linebackers were fresh, and they were running and hitting. And So, I mean, it was just the Niners stopped Etienne. I said it in the pregame. If Etienne, who came in averaging 3.9 a carry, if he averages 5.5 a carry, Jacksonville's going to win this game. Instead, he came out. He only ran it 9 times, and he ran for 3.9 a carry. Conversely, McCaffrey, who had been getting stuffed behind the Niner line, now was Feliciano the difference? Was Burford better? Was McCaffrey fresher? Was it better play calling? But McCaffrey ran for 5.9 a carry, and the Niners ran for almost 5 yards on a pop on 30 carries.
I think Feliciano gets a lot of credit there. Filling in for Aaron Banks is no easy filling job. Banks has been fantastic this year, one of the highest rated guards in the entire league, and they didn't miss a beat. I'm not going to say that they were better, but to not miss a beat with the backup player in there means the backup player had a wonderful afternoon. Feliciano was very good. Just the facts. Again, forget about my opinion. Just the facts.
Just the facts.
The Jaguars were held to 12 first downs. It's one of the better performances of the entire season. The New York Giants were held to 10 by the 49ers. The Dallas Cowboys were held to 8 first downs. But you hold the team to 12 first downs, it means they're never ahead of the chains. Things are going terrible for them. So it was a very good afternoon. For the second time this year, the team registered 5 sacks. They did the same thing opening weekend, week 1 in Pittsburgh. Second time this season that they've had 4 takeaways. They had 4 takeaways in the Dallas game. There was a sequence where the 49ers defense caused the Jaguars to have a 5 possession stretch, which was a fumble. They settled for a field goal. They threw an interception. They fumbled again and then threw another pick. Trevor Lawrence then threw another pick and was responsible for 3 of the team's 4 turnovers. So it was just a causing havoc, wreaking havoc level afternoon for the entire defense. Nick Bosa in particular. Nick Bosa forced his 9th fumble of his career. He now has, after a 1.5-sack performance, 47.5 sacks. He's only played 60 games in his career, and he's got 47.5 sacks with 9 forced fumbles.
He's mastered the sack fumble.
Yeah, Larry, he's 4.5 sacks away from being 3rd on this team's all-time sack list. He's 4.5 sacks away from being right up there behind Bryant Young and Charles Haley. Bryant Young, Charles Haley, Nick Bosa. And 4.5 sacks, that's the list of all-time sack leaders for the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, he improved to 6-3 against AFC South teams. He is 3-0 now against Jacksonville. And the only room that I thought he even left a crack of the door open for criticism was trying to get Christian McCaffrey that touchdown at the end. I understand why he did it. I also think it was a little foolish to be that aggressive for, when you're starting quarterbacks out of the game, Christian McCaffrey should also be out of the game. I think that that's kind of a universal truth, but I understand because.
And let's go beyond that for a second. You're talking about forcing touches to a player who's on pace for over 400 touches, who you have to have fresh in January to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
So
and the defense knows we're going to send 11 to tackle him.
Well, I mean, and then there's the how did you get it? How did you do it? The better plan, I mean, I couldn't believe the way they did it. I felt like I was watching the Warriors feed Klay Thompson in his 37-point quarter at the end there, where it was like, let's keep feeding Klay. It's like, no, let's just keep playing basketball, and then we'll figure out if Klay can score within the whole thing. But, I mean, that's basketball. This is this guy had an X on his chest, and everybody knew that he was going to get the ball as you're trying to move the ball. You weren't just trying to score with him. You were trying to move the ball in position to score and then score with him. It's like, if you really want to do that correctly, Kyle, go to somebody else when everybody thinks you're going to CMC to get to the 1. A little turnaround stop route at the 1, and then give it to McCaffrey 2 or 3 times from the 1. Instead,
falling into the end zone is what took Christian McCaffrey's touchdown away.
But I mean, why give him the ball 5 times and let them just load up on a bunch of hits for a guy that you absolutely have to have late in the year? I mean, I'm all for getting the record, but be smarter about it. I mean that. Don't just say everybody in the stadium knew he was going to touch the ball. So why not advance the ball to the 1 And then you got the option to go McCaffrey over the top, or McCaffrey on some, give him a couple runs from the 1. Instead, they like forced him to be like the offense inside the 20 coming out of that timeout. And they just like try to make almost like a joke of it. Like, we're going to CMC and we're going to CMC again. And now we're going to pass it to CMC. I mean, it just seemed like bad methodology, maybe questionable decision-making, risk reward didn't make sense. Team individual goals over team goals. I mean, it didn't
register.
It was a mistake.
Right. With the way that Kyle Shanahan's DNA is coursing through, it just didn't compute. But again, no harm, no foul. He's
alive
fine.
today.
He's
lived through it. We all lived through it.
He is not hurt. And look, they were trying to do something very special. His consecutive games with a touchdown scored streak comes to an end at 17. So he has to share first place with Lenny Moore, who's a Hall of Famer from the Baltimore Colt days. And look,
he's got to share the record anyway.
Right. So but it wasn't penny wise. It was penny foolish and pound foolish. I thought, I get it. I'm not angry. Thank God nothing happened, but let's never do that bullshit again. Secondly, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's, he came up with a couple of his best stats yet, and I just want to put this in. Again, these are not opinions, Larry. These are just the facts.
Just the facts.
In Purdy's first 2 seasons, he's now registered 3 games with 3 or more touchdown passes and a passer rating of 140 or more, making him just the second player in football history to have 3 such games in their first 2 seasons. The only other guy that did it was Kurt Warner in 1999. So, Kurt Warner, who we all acknowledge is one of the single greatest stories in football history, has now got Brock Purdy standing next to him on this list of, hey, were you that good that early in your career with 3 touchdown passes and this quarterback rating? Only 2 guys can say yes, and Brock is now one of them. And this is something that I think is just fascinating. And again, how does the Brock isn't good enough crowd have any ammunition left to fire at that point that they're just, admit you're wrong. Admit you're wrong. You were wrong. You got it wrong. You handicapped it wrong. And Brock is good enough to win the Kentucky Derby. You tried to say he was a claiming horse, Joe Burrow.
The people who said that he lacked arm strength, particularly this morning, looked bad. Those people look the worst because the arm strength is fine. It's fine. It really is.
Step into that pocket because it was being pushed into his knees, and he armed the ball out to George Kittle on his longest touchdown pass of his career. He just armed that ball out there. He didn't have good technique. He couldn't step into that throw. He had a pocket right in his lap, and that was all arm strength. Here's his arm strength. It's good enough. It's NFL caliber. It's good enough. He might not be able to throw it from his knee, from the 20 through the uprights, but you don't throw footballs like that. Like Kyle Bowler didn't matter that he could throw from his knee at Cal Memorial Stadium. You're down. That's what that is. So anyway, this to me is the guys who want to shoot at Brock Purdy have no more ammunition left. Listen to this, Larry. The single best career completion percentage in football history. Well, first of all, what do you even think it is? The best completion percentage in football history that any player carries with enough
for a year
to qualify. Yeah, no, career. The career greatest completion percentage.
Career, I would say it's probably 69%.
68%. God, you know football. I'm very impressed. Good job, Larry. 68%, and it's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has the best career completion percentage.
Small sample size.
Well, it is. It's only 50 games. It's only 50 games. It's a small sample size. So Joe Burrow, best in football history, 68%.
And he's a modern. You knew it was going to be a modern quarterback because the modern game is, completion percentages. You see completion percentages in the 70s now.
Right. Brock Purdy's this season, his completion percentage is 68.8%. So 0.8% better than the greatest career completion percentage ever recorded. Now, he's only played 17 regular season games in Brock's career, again, with 68% being the best of all time. In Brock's 17-game now career, his career completion percentage is 67.8. So
which is right on line, by the way, with his completion percentage in college.
Larry,
that is what the guy is.
He's 0.2% away from being the greatest career completion percentage in NFL history. I mean, like, what more do you want than that? What more are you looking for? What more are you looking for? He completes 70% of his passes. He has a better than 3-to-1 career touchdown to interception ratio.
He's not him. He's not him. Hey, look at this one. Look at this one. This is I gotta throw this one in here. This is from yesterday. Did you catch this? A little bit of Martz yesterday. Look at this. Listen to this. Mike Martz on the 33rd team.
Okay.
He's a special player. I mean, Debo obviously has a big effect too, but that's not the reason for his success. I mean, that who he is never. I think people, when he started having those turnovers, they expect him to be perfect, and he's still got a little bit of a learning curve too. And they're putting him. The more he does, the more they ask him to do. I was guilty of that, so you got to be careful too. You forget he's just a young guy. If you're not careful. So they went back and they kept things pretty static for him. But where he's really exceptional, guys, is he just under pressure. He stands in there and makes throws that most guys, he's a courageous player. We talk about CJ, same thing. Courageous player, standing in there making throws and under duress that most guys just can't or won't make, and accurate, tough, calm, just, ice in his veins, so to speak, The Joe Montana thing is really accurate. I think it's a good analogy. I really do. Those people they just jump off the bandwagon at the first opportunity. I think that's just the nature of some people. I mean, they can't wait for you to have a bad moment, so they take a shot at you. But he's the real deal.
There you go.
Look, people who are really stock traders know what a good investment is. Brock Purdy is a great investment for the 49ers. Full stop. They bought low. They're already getting a huge return on that investment. He is the lowest priced quarterback in football with the highest QBR rating. Like, find me a better success to starting point ratio than that. I mean, there is an argument now to be made that, when we're talking about the greatest values in the history of Bay Area sports contract, I don't know if we'll ever see anything better than Steph Curry winning MVPs with a $44 million contract extension. That was incredible. That's the greatest value I think the NBA has ever seen. Steph winning MVPs, making $11 million a year. Brock might be second. Might be second.
He's making what, $840,000 or something this year?
His salary doesn't even count towards the cap. That's how little they're paying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and we'll see where it goes from here, but I think they're back on the beam. Now the question is, they get Tampa next week. They got to follow that up with a win. Then it's into the gauntlet of Thanksgiving night in Seattle, which is going to be enormously challenging. I do think the 49ers are going to win that game on Thanksgiving night. I really believe that. I think they've got a shot to beat Philly in Philly. I think the 49ers will fire a good effort in that game. So this is going to be an exciting part of the season. The bottom line too, I think this is one take that I think needs to be thrown out there, is that the 49ers have so many big time players at this point that, they look like they didn't take the first part of the year on the same level. Like, they knew they were going to dial it up as the season went on. If you look at Shanahan's record here in San Francisco, pre-buy, post-buy, it's night and day. And why is that? I don't know. Maybe it's a tone they strike. Maybe it's a tone Shanahan strikes. But this team has an ability to get to that next level. We've seen it what now, 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row where they're stumbling around. They're not looking great. Different quarterbacks, different rosters, different leaders, different strengths and weaknesses. And yet they seem like they circle the wagons. They get a little bit better. Now the question is, can they maintain it? And then the other question is, how much of yesterday was about the Niners getting better, or how much of that is that the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't as good as we think? You know, I mean, there were an awful lot of people who were yelling and screaming nationally that the Jaguars were, should have been favored and, this and that, and they're really special. And all this talk about the Niners, Greg Brandt embarrassed himself on the NFL Network morning show, just going off on who are the Niners. They were just a team that was good early in the year. What they are is probably, one of the, forget the iconic franchise because that doesn't really matter, but what they are is one of the deepest rosters with one of the best collections of star talent groups in the entire league. And they looked like the best team early. Then they went into a 3-game funk. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's a week-to-week league, right? Yesterday, they looked like as good as almost anybody.
Well, and you talk about the post-bye. Like, I don't have necessarily the bye weeks built into this, but, everyone was saying that this start, 5-0 was great, and then the 3 losses in a row basically disintegrated the 5-0 from even mattering anymore, and this is a disastrous start, and it's bad, and it's bad, and it's bad, and it's bad, and it's bad. Okay, well, you're overreacting once again, because here's the truth. Again, these are just the facts, Larry. Forget about my opinion. These are facts. The 49ers are off to their second best start in the Kyle Shanahan era. Look, in 9 games, the first 9 games of 2019, the year they went to the Super Bowl, they were 8-1. A phenomenal start. In 2020, they were 4-5. In 2021, through 9 games, they were 4-5. In 2022, through 9 games, they were 5-4. Now here we are in 2023. They're 6-3. That's the best 9-game start other than 8-1 in Kyle's career. And it's still not good enough for people. It's it. But the 3 losses are blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they're still off to the best 8-9 game start that you can pretty much ask for. I mean,
how about this one too? I mean, I kept hearing criticism of Brock last week, and it was always tied to they've scored 17 points 3 weeks in a row. Okay, but guess what happened yesterday? They scored over 30 points for the 6th time this year, most of any team in the NFL. The Niners have more 30-point wins, 30-point games scoring this year than any other team in pro football. So,
look, to truly evaluate a player, and this is something that, biased content creators need to start factoring in for their own credibility. But to evaluate a player truly, you just can't select from, the buffet, the columns that support your argument he's not good. You cannot say, well, he's thrown 5 interceptions in the last 3 weeks without also acknowledging he didn't throw any in the first 5.
Right. Or that he has fewer than all these quarterbacks that you prefer to him.
Right. He's consistently outplaying higher paid, better drafted, more seasoned, deeper into their careers quarterbacks. The only way Brock Purdy doesn't look good is if you're measuring against, guys who are in the Hall of Fame. And actually, if you just take the sample of the beginning of their careers, he looks better than most of all of them too. It's absurd. The amount of people who really want to insist that all of these data points of success don't matter nearly as much as their preordained opinion that went back to training camp that it should have been Trey Lance. It's nuts. It's nuts. Again, maybe you're old, Damon. This is how the young people like to talk about sports. Well, this is why young people should just shut the fuck up and listen to older people who know what they're talking about. Seriously, it's this guy's special. He's really good. At the beginning of his career, he's performing at a pace and a level that very few quarterbacks in this league can even stay with. What does it mean? Where does it all go? I don't know. I don't know. but it's about as good of a start to a career as you can find. And if that's not good enough for some of you, I don't know what you're looking for.
Well, I mean, we debated it when he was off to this unbelievable start, and we were all kind of speculating. Okay, we know he's not going to win every game. We know he's going to turn the ball over. All quarterbacks do. When we get beyond this hot start, which is inevitably what we're seeing, right? Because nobody wins every game and nobody doesn't throw any picks. You know, you're gonna lose games. You're gonna throw picks. It's the nature of the beast. But we were all trying to debate, what does real Brock look like? And I think we've got a real. Here we are. It's going into week 11. I think we now in year 2 have a look at what he is. He turned the ball over. He had 33 interceptions in college. He's trying to make plays, and sometimes he's going to get overzealous with the football. What's Brock's bad day? He knows how to process, and he knows how to move the football team. So like what we saw basically in the Cincy game and in the Minnesota game, that's bad Brock, which is he moves the team, plays good for 3 quarters, and then gets overzealous and throws a couple picks he shouldn't have. And that's where coaching has to come into play. That's where Shanahan's got to rein him in. That's where Brock's got to fight against his tendency to make a play on every turn. Sometimes you got to just, punt and go on to the next series and lean on the rest of your team. I mean, you can't always try to force every single play. So now that we've seen his tendency, that's it. He's got to be patient. He's got to be careful with the football. If he's patient and careful with the football, he's your guy. What does he fight? He fights tendencies where he's not patient and he tries to make a play and he's not careful with the football and he turns it over. So I think we've seen, and even in the midst of those games, he still looked awesome for 3 quarters against Minnesota. Going into the 4th quarter, he'd completed 85% of his passes on the road on Monday Night Football. Going into that Cincinnati game, he was the Niners' best player for 3 quarters of the game. But then bad Brock popped up, and we got what we got in the 4th quarter. So
right, and look,
I think we now have a pretty good idea of what he is. He knows how to process. The ball's going to come out on time. He's going to be pretty accurate. He's really, really smart young guy. He's very competitive. What you got to coach out of him is his impatience and his looseness with the ball. And as long as he can take care of the football, they got a great chance to win almost every game that he's in. And that's a great spot. I mean, this wasn't, Damon, one last thought. This Jacksonville team was in a lot of ways the toughest team he's going to face. Why? Because his tendency or his weakness is to turn it over, and they had 18 takeaways. And yet the Niners came in, he took care of the football, and they wind up winning a blowout game on the road against and running the ball for 144 against one of the league's top run defenses absolutely helped.
Look, in week 7 and 8, where he had 2 interception games in back-to-back weeks and everyone was trying to hop off the bandwagon, what he also did was complete 70% of his passes. Again, greater than the best career completion percentage ever recorded in football history. He's recording 70% of his passes. He's completing them with 713 total yards over the course of 2 weeks. Like that's letting her rip. That's really playing well. But again, he had the interceptions. But this guy he will probably never be as good as the most hopeful Niner fan would hope him to be, and he will never be nearly as bad as some people are trying to tell you that he is. And again, there's a guy just a few minutes ago on the chat named Always Drip 805.
Yes, always. What did Always Drip have to say?
Well, he says a franchise quarterback wins with no-name players. He makes no-name players all look like pro players. Brock Purdy wouldn't win without CMC and Kittle until I can see him win without the Avengers cast to save him. What? He won't be good enough for you? So until
he completed a ball to Ronnie Bell yesterday, didn't he?
Wait a minute. Wasn't that Darnold?
Was it?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. The whole point is Always Drip. The fictitious, completely hypothetical scenario that you have invented in your mind is the hurdle that must be crossed before you believe. You are the same idiot who said, until Tom Brady can win without the Patriots, he's no good. I mean, like you're out of your mind. So until the 49ers can get demonstrably worse around him and field a less than competitive team, and he brings them to a win total that they should never have approached, then he'll be good enough for you? Like, again, you are making shit up. The imaginary scenario in your mind is not the test of an NFL quarterback's talent. The test of an NFL quarterback's talent is the game he's playing today, not the imaginary game with all the levers pulled for you to adjust the setting of difficulty that you think need be cleared before you can say he can play.
But even if always drip is right, you're still talking about a young player. I mean, let's see what he is in 2-3 years, right? I mean, then
games.
Let's just see what he is down the road,
right? Well, but again, not until he wins playoff games. He's won those.
I mean, people talk about playoff games. All these quarterbacks. I mean, Mahomes this year has some really questionable wide receivers. He still has a great O-line, the best offensive play caller, maybe the best tight end
in history,
and a terrific young running back, and a number one defense. So, I mean, it's like, Lamar's good, but Lamar's also got a really good offensive line, a killer run game, a very good, the number one defense. I mean, it's like football's a team game. Yeah, I mean, was Terry Bradshaw the best quarterback ever, or was Terry Bradshaw the quarterback of 4 Super Bowl winners? He was damn good when he needed to be, and they won. Were there better quarterbacks? I mean, I know what you're saying, that he's doing it with these premier weapons. And that's what the Niners have. They have premier weapons. And you're right. If they took those premier weapons away, he wouldn't be as good. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, telling me that suddenly Jalen Hurts could win without Devontae and A.J. Brown and all their killer Hall of Fame offensive linemen,
right.
Dallas Goedert, and it's like he's got some pretty good talent around him. I mean, everybody's got talent. People talk about Herbert. Oh, Herbert. Could you imagine Herbert in this Niner system? How about, could you imagine Keenan Allen catching passes from Brock Purdy? Keenan Allen's pretty damn good. I'm just saying, it's like almost everybody's got somebody around them. Is Tua? People think that Tua's great. Is Tua great, or is Tyreek and Waddle great?
Right.
We can debate this forever.
Until Brock Purdy is able to somehow turn a collective team sport into an individual sport where he can win 1 on 11, I won't be impressed. And that's what people are saying, basically.
Well, you know what? It's like, if you're not impressed, you're not impressed. I mean, to each their own. I don't understand why you're not impressed at this point. Don't act like you're not impressed. But I think the guy's pretty good. I really do. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But yesterday he was damn good. And to me, the play of the game was after the 49ers sideline caused that touchdown by Ambry Thomas to be called back, and they're sitting at their 19-yard line, and they get to 3rd down, and it's like, they're about to have a huge positive play turn into a monumental negative play, and the crowd's going to get into it, and the Jaguars are going to have plenty of time to come back in that game. Instead, what did Brock Purdy do? He completed that pass on 3rd and 9 to Ayuk for 20 yards from the 19-yard line, and all of a sudden it was just like, So, I mean, Brock made several great throws yesterday to Ayuk, to Debo, to Kittle. He just made a number of really, really good throws, and he took care of the football. I mean, the guy's played great ball except for not taking care of the football in the 4th quarter of a couple games. That's it. Other than that, he played great against the Vikings. He played terrific against Cincinnati. He just turned it over in the 4th. And if that's basically what it's the downside of Brock Purdy. When he's good, they're going to win games. He's going to play great. When they lose, it's going to be because he gets overzealous, impatient, and turns the ball over. That's the good and the bad of Brock Purdy. But I'll take him over Matt Corral. I'll take him over Desmond Ridder. I'll take him. Then look at how many teams. I just read an article yesterday on Bleacher Report about all the NFL teams that are going to head into this offseason looking for a quarterback. And it's like almost, I mean, The Jets, what's going to happen there? The Patriots are not going to exercise the 5th-year option on Mac Jones. I think the Titans are going to probably go forward with Will Levis. Colts are not really sure, but they've got Anthony Richardson. Denver's looking for a quarterback. Raiders, maybe are they going to go forward with the kid from Purdue? If not, are they going to switch up? The Cardinals going with Kyler? Do the Rams have their future quarterback? Are the Seahawks going with Geno? Are the Bucks going with Baker? It's like the Falcons going to be looking for a quarterback. Are the Bears going with Fields or Badgett? Probably not. So they're looking for a quarterback. Minnesota's looking for the replacement for Cousins. The Giants need a quarterback. The Commanders, is Sam Howell the guy? I'm just saying there's a bunch of teams looking for quarterbacks.
Right.
The 49ers have theirs.
About 10. Yeah. Every team, but about 10 of them are looking for quarterback.
Yeah.
And you look for quarterback until you find them. And, Larry, I've heard you say, well, what happens? Like they get to their first pick and Michael Penix is on the board. Take him.
Draft him. He's freaking awesome.
You can't have enough quarterbacks. It's just kind of the way it goes. So
he's not, by the way, forget these mock drafts. I know it's early in the mock draft season. And so we haven't had anything. We haven't had the bowl season. We haven't had the combine. We haven't had any of the workouts, all that stuff. For whatever reason, Michael Penix, who started at Indiana, is now at UW, has the greatest arm maybe ever. I mean, looks like a combination of Mahomes and Flacco and Bradshaw all rolled into one. It's one of the great howitzers.
Like Elway.
He's a lefty, but he just throws freaking lasers. I watched their game last year. They played in a freaking typhoon. I mean, it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds, and the quarterback opposite him, I forget who it was. It was a night game up in Seattle. The quarterback opposite him in the game couldn't even throw a ball to his running back. And Penix is sitting back there throwing lasers down the field, across the field to his receivers. His throws were cutting through that wind. He's got huge hands and a howitzer. And I know he's had some physical problems, and not everybody sees him as the perfect quarterback and so on and so forth. He's going top 10. I mean, if he's not going top 10, I would be shocked. He's probably going to win the Heisman, and he's going top 10. Many of these mock drafts have him, in the 60s or 70s.
I'd draft him before Bo Nix. I mean, I think you take Caleb
Bo Nix is damn good too.
Yeah. Look, now we're talking about something else. Let's get back to the topic.
But I'm just saying, Penix is a star.
Right. Pabs, excuse me. Pabs 79 brings up a pretty damn good point. Do you realize that Brock Purdy is a moody field goal away from being 7-2?
Right.
Yeah. One moody field goal
after running the table as a rookie.
Right.
And winning 2 playoff games.
7-2. So again, the basically what has happened amongst a lot of people who've determined Brock isn't good enough is they were standing on the street one day and a Lamborghini rolled past them. And then they looked at every other car and they just said, forget about the merits of all these other cars. Just not Lamborghini, not Lamborghini, not Lamborghini, not Lamborghini. And all I understand is Lamborghini or not Lamborghini. There's no other cars. It's Lamborghini or not Lamborghini. If you don't understand that, you can go pretty far with like a Corvette, and that's what Brock is at this point.
You got to make him a Corvette. Why can't he be like a Land Rover or something?
Whatever your preferred other brand of car. But the thing is, there's somewhere.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have a killer Land Rover for like $100K or a Corvette? I think
I'd rather have a Land Rover.
The killer.
I mean, I got kids. What am I going to roll with 2 car seats in the back of a Corvette? I look like a divorced dad douchebag idiot.
Can you even put car seats in a Corvette?
Probably not. I don't know.
That would be awesome to go into a Corvette dealer and just demand.
How many car seats can I get in here?
How many car seats can I get in my Corvette?
I got 4.
If we have a Corvette salesman in our chat, maybe give us the info on that. How many car seats fit in a Corvette?
I got 4 kids. I got 2 Great Danes. I want a Corvette.
Exactly. I want a Lamborghini and I've got a Great Dane. How does it work?
I want to bounce around the NFL and talk about some of the other results because it was not exactly a great slate, but there's some interesting stuff out there to talk about.
Before you do, let's clear the board here because we've got a bunch of super chats.
Indeed.
Got over 1,000 people in the room today. Obviously, welcome to the Krug and Bruce extravaganza. 49er wake up on a Monday. We're here after every 49er win. Or loss. We're here the next morning.
People in the room, all 1,000 of you, hit that like button right now, please. It'd be good for the business, good for the brand. And if you could give a subscribe to your boy over here, we're approaching 9,000, Larry. I got a lot of catching up before I get into your category. We're on our way, though, and the support's been incredible. Got a lot of love from Kruger fans who, by the way, it was so good seeing you at Plus Mania 2 Electric Boogaloo, man.
Never do that again, by the way. Never, ever, take me out with my wife, have me drink, and then interview us both. I mean, if you want to bet the risk management people that I've spoken with this week says, please, Krug, never do that again. And my wife was cringing, sitting there going, I was 4 drinks in talking about your career. I'm like, oh my God.
It was good. Yeah, it was right. Fast. You do come up with strong opinions quickly.
I mean,
you are. No, I was proud of you, Larry.
We laughed, but it was great meeting all the people. Seriously, we had a lot of fun, and we need to do that more. And I'm going to do a meet and greet on December 17th for the Niner Cardinal game at Pig and a Pickle in Corte Madera. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer because it's only November 13th, and we're talking about December 17th. But if you can clear your Niner road game on December 17th and you want to stop by, and hopefully Damon will be able to come out with his mother because she'll be in town.
The Duchess
and wife.
Like some barbecue.
Yeah, seriously. We're all going to hover at Pig and a Pickle. I've talked to Damon. He's excited. Damon Stainbrook, the owner of Pig and a Pickle. Damon. The other
Damons.
And he's a big fan of Damon's, of mine, and of course, proud sponsor, the title sponsor of the Krug Show, Pig and a Pickle. Check him out in Corte Madera and Emeryville. We'll be there 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock on the 17th of December. So join us for a meet and greet.
I got crazy love for Ikes, who is certainly the biggest sponsor that I have over on Damon Bruce Plus. Hit subscribe, hit like, help us grow this thing. Larry and I are taking over the Bay right here on YouTube. Stations be damned. Channels are better. And it is really, really good to be on this channel with you. Thank you for being here with us today. It means an awful lot. And look, if you are interested in becoming the title sponsor of 49ers Wake Up, we are in the business of looking for a new title sponsor. So reach out to Larry and I. Contact us either through YouTube channels or Twitter. There's there's a great advertising opportunity where we will deliver for you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of impressions before the end of this football season. So reach out if you're interested. There's a great opportunity for the biggest, quickest growing show out there. So, Larry, let's get into the super chats. What do we got?
All right, we got Gizmo Maltese says, why isn't Debo being used as a wide receiver more?
Because he can't separate. He really can't, Larry. He is not fast enough to be a number one wide receiver. I like Debo, but he has got the type of wide receiver numbers that no starting I'm the number one wide receiver should have. He is so foreign to seeing the concept of like an 8-catch, 100-yard, 130-yard game. It doesn't happen much. I love Debo, but he's not a number one wide receiver. It's Brandon Ayuk's.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. Ayuk is has better ball skills, better route running, bigger, better catch radius, just better. Debo's better run after the catch though, and Debo's a dynamic player run after the catch. So I love him on the end arounds. To me, use Debo on end arounds, use Debo on slants. I love him on slants or anything around the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's a good receiver. He's just, to me, he's not an elite down the field receiver. He's a receiver that you want to get him the ball in his hands where he's got 2 or 3 steps, and it's like, good luck tackling that guy.
Yeah.
So I love the end arounds. If I was Shanahan, between the reverses and the end arounds, I would make sure Debo got the ball at least 2-3 times a game that way. where he's got 2-3 steps to really get it rolling. Stephen Pryor says 49ers need to get Brock a John Deere and let him mow Levi's before every game. Worked well for the bye week. Maybe even add a strawberry field that he can harvest. Yeah, let's make Brock comfortable. Let's give Brock a farm right off the practice field that he can do some farm work.
Well, they got that living roof on top of the press box. So look at it this way: Steve Wilks is no longer allowed anywhere near the press box. Let Brock go up there and garden if he's comfortable doing that.
Gardening with Purdy, let him do what he makes him comfortable. I couldn't believe the people that I said to him. There was a picture of him and his girl on a tractor or near a tractor in Iowa during the bye week, and I'm like, can you believe this guy? And I mean, the poor Rich Madrid and the hate crowd on 49er Twitter, just like, why are you ripping Brock? It's like, dude, read the freaking room, Rich. Nobody's ripping Brock. It's like, why would anybody even be critical of an NFL quarterback who's helping out a farmer during his bye week? I mean, come on. The fact that anybody thought that was a rip on Brock was just, it just shows where people's heads are at. We got this one's from Surratt. In 2 to 3 years, he will be a backup like Nick Mullins.
Bet you he won't. Bet you won't. That. Thank you for paying $2 to be an idiot. Thank you very much. You can be an idiot for $2 increments all day long. Say as much stupid shit as you want, but at least pay us $2.
Surratt says, here's another $2. Don't talk down. Herbert, ... He is elite. He's elite, God's sake, and lost again yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, Herbert's not bad.
He's great.
He's very good. But he can't win one possession games, like, ever.
I mean, Herbert's really good. I think Brock's really good. And I personally would rather have Brock because I think Brock, plays the position at a higher level, but Herbert has bigger skills. He's got bigger stature, a better arm, unbelievable release. In a lot of ways, he's the prototype. I get it.
Oh, I
think they're both going to be good.
This next super chat is fantastic.
Elanta 3. We still have no idea how good Joe Montana was. We needed to see him without Rice, Craig, Clark, Cross, Fonhorst, Walsh, and Holmgren.
Here's the thing.
But he did go to Kansas City and win with like Willie Davis and Schottenheimer and those guys, and they got to the AFC Championship game, and I don't know, he was pretty good there. But
right, no, that's the thing. He was that good enough.
I know this guy's joking.
Make all boats in the harbor rise with him. Maybe Purdy is that, but again, Joe Montana was not that until the end of his career. Brock Purdy's at the beginning of his career. Can we let the guy go through his career before we try to evaluate it? I mean, you should only measure Brock against guys in his own draft class. And we're talking about he might be Joe Montana. Like, everyone needs to take a breath, but this is a really good start for a really good player. And look, the Brock Purdy, he's got too much talent around him for me to respect him individually. Like, that experiment's already been run with Steve Young in a weird way. Steve Young was in a bad situation early in his career, didn't do very much. He gets put in a good situation and turned into a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, Billick, I always quote Billick because Billick said this, and I really think it's genius. The hardest thing for football fans and observers to evaluate is the quarterback versus what's going on around the quarterback. And that's really it. I mean, good, bad, or otherwise. Are there a lot of great things going on around Brock Purdy? Yeah. You got Shanahan. You got a collection of the bevy of the best weapons in the game. But you also have an offensive line that is not great. And every football team has flaws. The Niners weren't stopping the run. I mean, I watched that Bengal game with the binoculars in hand on every snap from the press box. I'll tell you right now, the story of that game was not Brock Purdy's turnovers. It was the fact that the 49er defense was just gutted, absolutely gutted in every way imaginable against the run, against the pass, against the screen. I mean, the Niners still haven't stopped Burrow and company. So, I mean, that was the story there. I mean, Brock kept them in it for 3 quarters, kind of running for his life, playing 6 days after he was concussed, and then turned it over in the 4th quarter, and everybody's like, Brock blew it. And it's like, dude, The defense was a sieve.
Look, I just don't understand the fan mentality that is, hey, this is the team that I root for. And even though we're on to something really good at the dawn of a career, I'm not going to be satisfied until everything around him goes totally wrong. And then he shows that he can one-man army us right to the Super Bowl all by him fucking self. Like,
or just the way, I mean, it's like they're, okay, so some weathermen say tomorrow it's going to rain. And that's really all we're doing by saying, hey, I think the guy's the guy or not the guy. We're playing like, sports weathermen. Anybody can sit there the next day as it's raining and say, you know what? I think it's raining.
Told you it was going to rain.
I mean, it appears to be raining. Surratt, play of the game is the first interception turned into first touchdown to BA. Yeah,
the play of the game for Brock was picking up a massive third down after the Ambry Thomas took it to the house, wasn't to the house because of the sideline violation.
Yeah, I agree. That was my play of the game yesterday. But I'll tell you the other one that's maybe the best play that I've seen him make was, he takes the drop. The offensive line is, gives ground in his face. He's got a muddied pocket. He's leaning backwards. He notices Kittle's ISO'd on Devin Lloyd down the field and didn't just get it out. He got it out and led him and threw a perfect dime and dropped it on him and beat Lloyd for a touchdown, 3 plays out of the half? That was a tremendous play because that was the play that the people that say he has a rag arm, you can't make that play, throwing the ball off your back foot, not being able to step into it or follow through if you have a rag arm. He's got what I would call requisite arm strength. Ramon Gonzalez. Hey, guys, what happened on the Ambry touchdown? The Niners sideline morphed into the Stanford Cal band a la 1982. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think because Ambry...
They thought he was down.
Ambry thought he was down. Hufanga was like, hey, man, you're up, and kind of lifted him up. It took a second and a half. In that second and a half, the Niners sideline, including Johnny Holland and some of the players, came onto the field to play at the 19. And so they marked him basically down at the 19. Brock, as Damon described, really picked up his team by getting that next drive quickly to and getting Debo on the end around. But it was the throw to Ayuk on 3rd and 9 that kind of kept that drive alive after the first 2 plays didn't go anywhere. And that was a big momentum shift in the game right there. It was really that Debo end around really was the difference in the game in a lot of ways. We got this one from Surratt. Take Michael Penix Jr. and trade to the Packers for a 7th. Oh, trade Brock to the Packers. I'm sure he's saying, right?
I think we should just take Surratt's money at this point and not give him any attention. Thank you, Surratt.
David, you gotta love Surratt. He's donating to us. Hazy Days says the whole is Purdy elite debate is just another move the goalpost maneuver since dink and dunk and the system quarterback fell on these naysayers' faces. Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah,
that is so true. Let's get into, is he elite? Is he the guy? He was the guy yesterday, wasn't he? How about this one? RG Teamster. Purdy is the sleeper minivan with a twin turbo V8.
You can fit 2 Great Danes, a Malamute. You can fit 3 Dachshunds and 4 kids, and a wife, and a picnic basket, and 5 armchairs.
It's a Chrysler Pacifica, and yes, it's got it's got 3 beds in the back. But I can if I step on the gas, I'm going right on by you.
Brock Purdy is a white church van with 8 rows in it. No,
he's that Mercedes-Benz van. Have you seen that? The Benz van?
Like the $300,000 Mercedes-Benz van. It's like you could have had a Rolls Royce or that. You chose that.
Right. Instead, you had too many kids and you had to have a really expensive van. Gray Tree Game says, great to see Ambry. I like the great to see there. Great to see Ambry, Winter, and Winters on defense. Why not Mason for Mitchell? And Mason and McCaffrey would be scary.
What
I agree.
did JP Mason do to lose any and all offensive touches? I don't get it.
I mean, seriously. I mean, JP Mason. I mean, what happened? Did he park in Shanahan's space at the facility? I mean, what's going on? I may have to ask Shanahan that question this week. Hey, excuse me, Kyle, is it true that JP Mason parked in your parking space in the facility and that's why he never gets on the field? Did he take your lunch in the lunchroom? Excuse me, what does JP Mason ever need to do to get on the field? Mike Baker, last I checked, Jimmy and Lance had the same talent. Surratt, I got perfect comparison for Purdy. It's Dobbs. Oh my, stop.
Hey,
Dobbs has been good, though. Dobbs has been good.
Who's making fun of Joshua Dobbs, who's
he's been traded twice this year.
Dude, he's emerged as one of the best stories in all of football. And
why you would trade that guy? Why would you trade him?
Practice. Well, you trade him because Kyler Murray's now ready to play, I guess. And
because you can't trade Kyler, I guess.
I don't know. But yeah, we'll look at it this way. The Arizona Cardinals are a bad football team. I think that explains it more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's a poorly run franchise.
Dobbs is good, though. James T. Kirk, all of my favorite content creators get a Levi's Stadium 24-ounce domestic beer this week. Cheers, Victory Monday.
Thank you. We're going to need more than 20 to pay for that, though, I think. So, but thank you.
What's that?
I think there's no way
for the 24-ouncer.
Domestics for 20 out of that. No way.
At a Warrior game, you'd have to put it on layaway. You know, pay half now and half later. Okay, we're an hour and 40 minutes into this live stream. No mention of a story that Kyle Shanahan, and I agree with Kyle Shanahan. I said it first time this came up last week. People were like, "Is Steve gonna sit in the booth, or is Steve gonna be on the sidelines?" To me, that was it shows where the NFL is. To me, that is like almost like a footnote that you would see in the program. Like, excuse me, 49er fans, 49er media, welcome to the 49er game against Jacksonville. By the way, for your full knowledge, Steve Wilks, 49er defensive coordinator, will be on the field today instead of up in the coach's box.
Ooh.
Enjoy the chicken nuggets. We'll be serving complimentary omelets all morning. Welcome to Levi's Stadium. I mean, it's like that's about what that should have deserved. Like something as minimal as that. Instead, it's like it's like people gathering around Winston Churchill. Excuse me, he is moving there for what definitive reason, and what will be the collective impact of his transition from the? I mean, it's like, my God, it was the biggest non-story. And was Steve Wilks on the sidelines the reason the Niners had a coordinated effort off defensively? Was it the reason that guys didn't fall off tackles? Was it the reason that the coverage was tighter, or the reason that Niner defensive linemen got off of blocks? No, it was not. But we love our drama. We love football has become man soap opera. And because of it, it was like, let's talk about Wilks. People are going to lead to this morning with, well, let's get into it. Wilks left the sideline and the 49ers got the win. It's like Wilks left the box. And, I'll say this. He can really communicate now. And though there is no ambiguity, and I loved how he put his arm around Mooney Ward and he gave him a pep talk. And talk about things that don't matter. That was something that didn't matter. And Shanahan even said it in the postgame. He's like, I cannot believe how much attention this little subplot or little note has gotten. That was a minimal difference. A major difference, because athletes play these games. The major difference is the defensive back that was getting roasted and giving up 100% completion percentage. Isaiah Oliver, the veteran free agent who ran 4.6 coming out of Colorado and probably runs 4.7 now, was replaced by Ambry Thomas, who runs 4.4, and that allowed Lenore to move inside to the slot. And guess what? For the first time all year, the Niners put their best three cover guys on the field. And guess what? Their coverage was tighter. That was the story. But the Wilks movement is the talking point. So, Damon, go ahead. Weigh in. You heard Wilks said it was a bigger deal than it was. So did Shanahan. But the media said, we don't care. We are turning this into a soap opera. What did you think? Give me your take on the Wilks move coinciding with the
I told you a few weeks ago, if this team is getting to the other team's quarterback, I don't care if Wilks is calling plays from a beach in Aruba. It doesn't matter where he is. Get the right players in the right spot to succeed. That's all that matters. He's not out there. He's not dressed like a cheerleader. He's not firing guys up. That's not how the NFL works. And he's, like you said, he's not out there. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them on the sea. We shall fight them on the land. This is not the Germans have taken Paris. Steve Wilks had a good game.
The reason we suck is Wilks was sitting behind a pole, and he was, Steve Wilks' seat does not matter.
It's obstructed view. He was right behind an I-beam at Fenway. He couldn't see Wade Boggs at third. That's why I didn't know what was going on. He was around an I-beam. No, look good, feel good, play good. If the team thinks that there is a level of communication that is better between Steve Wilks being there than up there, then bring him on down. Like whatever works, whatever makes the team feel more comfortable, just go with that.
This was great when Bozzy Mian, LOL, Larry can't admit that he's wrong. No, Bozzy Mian, you can't admit that you're wrong. The head coach said it was not a big deal. Steve himself said, guys, you're making way bigger deal about this. My take is that they're making too big a deal of this. I'm siding with the actual coaches and the actual football people who know that this is not a big deal. The bigger deal are the guys who play the game. The athletes. The biggest deal was that Oliver wasn't in there and Thomas was and Lenore was inside. That was the story. I asked Shanahan, how are you getting faster? He dodged it. Well, what do you think? They got faster. They took a 4-6 corner and they said, sit down. They took a 4-4 corner and said, get in there. And surprise, surprise, the 4-4 corner has tighter coverage than the 4-6, 4-7 corner. That was what happened. Football is about, especially pass coverage. The key to pass coverage is pass coverage. In other words, you got to have dudes. You got to have athletes. And the Niners put their best athletes on the field. That was the story.
On the beaches. This is our finest hour.
When Steve looked Greenlaw in the eye and he said, go out there and play ball, that was the difference.
I heard that Nick Bosa, had Steve Wilks stayed in the press box, Nick Bosa just wasn't even going to sack the quarterback.
He wasn't going to even. He might not have showed up for the game.
He was thinking about it, and he said, "If he shows up on the sideline, I'll play hard, but not until I see him. Not until I see that guy on the sideline. Well, I know he really has my best interests."
Here's another one. 5-man fronts were huge. That's a real football thing. That was a real adjustment. So real adjustments and real personnel, changes make impact. Where the defensive coordinator sits in this whole thing, no impact. But whatever. They won. It's great. And the other question that nobody ever asked, and I wanted to get from Steve, is, you've been coaching for 20-something years. How many of those years did you spend on the sidelines? How many of those years did you spend in the box? I guarantee you it's a mix, right? It's not going to be like up 100% of the time in the box, up 100% of the time in the field. It's a mix.
What I don't understand about the NFL, and it could just solve these problems and make them totally irrelevant, is why not make the ability to communicate with the player and the receiver in their helmets? Everyone should have a green dot helmet. Why not the entire team hear the play that's coming in so they know what's going on? To me, the NFL needs to eliminate making communicating hard. There's no point in making communication part and parcel of whether your team is executing well or not. There's too many people watching. It's too much about entertainment. We want the best product, whatever would deliver the best product. And if a level of communicating easier delivers a better product, make it easier. I just don't understand. There should be no sign stealing scandal surrounding the Michigan football program, because they shouldn't be holding up cartoon characters and signs of, a Mickey Mouse and all the stupid cardboard boxes that they're holding up on the sideline. Why not just have your offensive coordinator talk to your quarterback through his helmet microphone?
Did you see the Michigan game this weekend? The guy had a sign in the pregame. He said, our other sign looked better, but Jim Harbaugh stole it.
That's pretty good. Well, and did you see that freaking interim head coach who talked about Jim Harbaugh as if he had died at halftime? We did this for Coach. Oh my God, but Jim means so much to us.
Why was he so emotional there?
He's sitting on the bus waiting for the team right now. What are you talking about, bud? He's swearing all over national television.
Yeah, dropping F-bombs.
The shit we've been through. We fucking love him. Oh, my God. But seriously, Indiana lost at Illinois in overtime with more dignity than going out like a bitch like that at the Happy Valley. Good God.
By the way, the safest bet of the week was Iowa at home against Rutgers -1. I think they won 22-0. That was the easy cash this weekend. Surratt says Dobbs is a good and good story like Brock, but can't be a starting quarterback for any team for long. That's my whole point. I like Brock Purdy. I am happy to have Brock Purdy for now, but we can do better than him. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you very much, Surratt, for another $10 bill. Again, if you can do better than the number one quarterback rating in football, 17 games into his career, go ahead.
Why is it not good enough? I mean, they've scored 30+ points 6 times this year, the most of any team in the NFL. Why is that not good enough?
Not good enough.
When Brock was beating Dallas 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, people, we were all saying, hey, you know what? It's not going to be this easy. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be games he doesn't play well. There's going to be games that he throws picks. I mean, we all could intellectually grasp it at that point, that even though he was appearing to be awesome and really almost unflat, his resume was like the best of all time through this many games. And yet we all could intellectually grasp that it wasn't going to continue. We knew he wasn't going to win every game. He wasn't going to have games that he never threw picks. It's happened to everybody from Montana to Brady to, I told you, Tom Brady's second year, there was a 4-game stretch where he threw 7 interceptions. But that was like, nobody mentioned that. It was like, yeah, no, it never happened. No, it actually did. And Joe Montana in the NFC title game in 81, before he won that thing to Dwight Clark, didn't he throw 3 picks earlier in that game? So, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's an emotional game. And and people get emotional about it. And it's very much, we didn't have Twitter in 1981. Otherwise, people would have tweeted out, Montana ain't him, only to see him, only to be deleting that tweet 3 hours later.
I wish Bill Walsh showed more emotion on the sideline.
Right. Well, I mean, there were a lot of people that said that Walsh was the key to Montana. Walsh, Montana's not good. It's just he's got Walsh. Seriously, even going into the 84 Super Bowl, It was like Marino is the real deal. Montana's a guy who was, just a function of Bill Walsh. And that's why Joe Montana went out and kicked ass that day and won the Super Bowl MVP. And, it was spectacular because it was like he was driven by this like doubt. So, Brock's not the first to have doubters.
By the way, there should be no doubters about the strength and potential of 49ers Wake Up. Larry, I just got a text from 49er Wake Up executive producer, director, and coordinator, Kevin Kruger.
Yes. Talented young lad.
He is, I don't know.
Sometimes refuses to make his bed.
Sometimes the apple does fall far from the tree, is all I can say.
Exactly.
49ers Wake Up right now. The two of us across both of our channels have more than 1,000 viewers in the room. 95.7 is at 574. KNBR is at 337. In other words, Larry, you and I have more viewers right now than both Bay Area sports talk radio stations' morning shows combined. And thank you. Thanks to everyone who's made that choice. I think I'm glad that you are here. It's wonderful to have you on 49ers Wake Up, and this is a show that is absolutely taken over the Bay Area, and we're doing it because of your response. So thank you very much. Once again, I'm going to ask anyone who's following Larry to subscribe to yours truly. Anyone who would be following me or subscribing to me, but not Larry, you must correct that mistake in your life. We will bring you adult-sized content that has more to talk about other than, Well, do you think that Kyle Shanahan should be fired for leaving Christian McCaffrey in?
I know it's funny when they lost to the Bengals, it was a lot of hate about Brock. And then yesterday they went 34-3, and so the hate mongers have to like focus in on Shanahan. Shanahan, I can't believe Shanahan. Now we're filibustering about, the way Shanahan handled CMC in garbage time. I agree with those people, but come on, guys. I mean, the story this morning should be overwhelmingly positive. The Niners rolled into a game they had to have on the heels of 3 straight losses. Could they circle the wagons on their season after this 5-0 start? People saying what were they going to do? Their O-line was not as good as Jacksonville's D-line, and they were going to lose at the line of scrimmage. The Niner D-line dominated Jacksonville's O-line. Niners dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They controlled the game from the opening drive. They ran for 144 yards against the top run defenses, one of the top run defenses in the NFL. They sacked Trevor Lawrence 5 times. Nick Bosa became Nick Bosa again. Chase Young, they had the Buckeye sandwich on Trevor Lawrence, and Chase Young was fantastic. I mean, Chase Young, I thought, looked really, really good. That was a great addition. And, the Jaguars, as Damon said, had a 5-possession stretch where they just got dominated. Fumbled, kicked a field goal, threw a pick, fumbled, threw another pick. And the Niners harassed Lawrence. Kittle had a bust-out performance. McCaffrey finished with 142 total yards. And Purdy took care of the football, and they won going away. So, I mean, this overwhelming story from yesterday's game is a positive story. There's no doubt. Eric Armstead injured his right ankle in the first half, but he returned a couple plays later.
Bosa took a knee for longer than anyone wanted to see, but he went right back in, thank goodness.
Hargrave had his best game as a Niner.
Seems like they got out of that one healthy and then pointed in the right direction again. And that's all you were really hoping for. I did think we started the show bringing up this point. I really thought that was among the biggest games of Kyle Shanahan's head coaching professional life. It wasn't going to dictate whether or not he was fired. There is no hot seat to be found around Kyle Shanahan. But in all the ways a big game matters to a coach, you need it today, coach. Kyle needed that one. And he didn't get it by a little. He got it by a lot. It was an emphatic, demonstrative win for the 49ers, who dominated on the line of scrimmage and just about everywhere else around it as well. So it couldn't really have gone better than it did for the 49ers in Jacksonville. Larry, let's plow through the rest of these starred and pinned tweets, and then we're going to go around the league, and then I'm going to invite everyone to come over and watch little Damon Bruce Plus, and we're going to be talking about the Buckeye bookends at 11 o'clock, and we're going to get into some Warriors basketball and a few other things, since we have more than tilled the ground of this 49ers win right here on 49ers Wake Up. But let's go through the starred chats, and then we'll go around the league.
All right. Well, we've gone through them except for the last couple here. Surratt, we hit that one.
Got that one.
We got Mike Baker. Mike Baker, $4.99 says, "You guys are shattering my undying faith in social media comment and analysts." Seriously, thanks for a great show.
Thank you, Mike.
And great content. Even though it says Grady content, I think he meant great.
Yeah, thanks for watching, Mike. Really appreciate it.
We've gone through all of the super chats. We had 35 in there.
You ready to bounce around the NFL? Because
let's do it.
A few things that happened yesterday. First of all, look, all jokes aside, congratulations to Antonio Pierce, who has shown up and gotten the Raiders to play a better brand of football that is a happier, more connected, if I can borrow from Steve Kerr's lexicon of sports sayings. The Raiders are better with him than they were with Josh McDaniel. I don't think it's even questionable. You can see that team is lighter on its feet. It's happier. It's bouncier. Now they've swept the New Yorks, which is no great shakes. Neither one of those teams should be allowed on television for the remainder of this season. But all I could help but think of is, as the Raiders were getting into the win column, was watch this team close this year in a somewhat impressive fashion. And Mark Davis is going to go ahead and replace Antonio Pierce with like Bill Belichick if he gets let go or some bad idea. Like I think the Raiders might have.
I don't know if I call that a bad idea. Hiring Bill Belichick is now a bad idea.
No, I don't know if that's a bad idea, but look, if you got a young team that is responding to a young coach who is feeling good about being here, it would be just like the Raiders to find a little success and then move off it for like John Gruden's son who, takes Muay Thai or something like that.
Did you watch the game though yesterday? Because I bet the Raiders last night, and I saw the Jets the week before, and I'm like, there's no way the Raiders are losing to that team. But the Raiders the last night. I mean, those two teams said offensive football back decades.
Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't good.
It was bad. Aiden O'Connell was 16 of 27 for 153 yards. He was sacked 3 times. The Raiders ran it with Jacobs 27 times.
Yeah, Jacobs won the game.
But I mean, the Raiders there were so many negative plays. They can't figure out a way to utilize Davante Adams. They actually have really great weapons. I mean, Josh Jacobs, Davante Adams, Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end, Jacoby Myers is having a nice year. They've got some weapons. Hunter Renfrow, Austin Hooper, Garrett Wilson was sure good for the Jets last night. But the Raiders there's such inconsistency.
Dude, and look,
fumbled 3 times. I mean, they fumbled 3 times.
Zach Wilson. Robert Saleh needs to stop dyeing that stupid beard of his and get someone other than Zach Wilson to play quarterback. Like, that guy's non-functional. He is unfunctional.
He was their leading rusher and he was their quarterback and their leading rusher. I mean, he wasn't good. I mean, no. He just doesn't instill confidence. I mean, this is why, what Purdy's doing is spectacular, is that it's difficult to play quarterback in the NFL as a young player. There are growing pains, and Wilson's going through them. He was 23 of 39 for 263. He makes some amazing plays. He showed some mobility in this game, which is, really good. I mean, I think that's I think he's going to improve over time, but man, I mean, it's just, they don't have a whole lot. I mean, Breece Hall ran for 28 yards. Their defense is really, really good, but
is what it really is. The offensive line has gotten Aaron Rodgers hurt. They can't do anything. The Cowboys, Larry, are back in the picture, I guess, a little bit in terms of NFC quality, because they outgained the New York Giants, who are really just dreadful.
They own them.
They outgained the Giants by 468 yards. It's the biggest yardage difference in an NFL game in 44 years. So that was
Giants were playing Tommy DeVito at quarterback. I mean, he threw for 86 yards. He was sacked 5 times.
Yeah, there's nothing to even talk about there. Kyler Murray, he wins his first game back after a 335-day absence, coming off of a torn ACL, and snaps a 6-game losing streak for the Arizona Cardinals. Again, talent matters. That kid he might not be the most disciplined quarterback, but his talent is off the charts, and he just wins. I mean, there's a reason why he's won more games in Texas high school football than any other human has ever lived. Like, he just wins.
Yeah, so. And that Colorado State kid, the tight end McBride, had a huge day, 131 yards on 8 catches. Buda Baker's now back and healthy for the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are, they've got some interesting players. You always got to kind of keep tabs on them. B.J. Ojolari is starting to emerge there. He had a couple sacks. Buda Baker and Kazir White combined for 21 tackles. Yeah, I mean, and Kyler, say what you want. I mean, he's a force as a runner. He had 6 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. He had a 13-yard run. He threw for 250. I'm kind of a Kyler fan. I know he's not quite gotten to the point where people trust him and there's more development there, but he's not a bad quarterback.
Josh Dobbs is not a bad quarterback, and the respect should be real. Like, the Vikings beat the Saints. They have now won 2 in a row. Where does it go? I don't know, but Dobbs is better than anyone thought. The Steelers,
he's a genius. He's super smart. He's very athletic. I mean, look how quickly he learned their system. He gives you something as a runner. He's nice. I mean, he's I think he was a aeronautical engineering major or something like that at Tennessee. Yeah. I mean, He's super bright. He's super athletic. He hasn't played tons of quarterback, but the year he's had this year is impressive.
He is won in nearly unwinnable situations. Meet the Cardinals, win a game.
Well, how about this? I think
no practice, win games.
I think my takeaway in that game was that I think Jameis Winston might be the guy the Saints ought to go with over Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr is so captain check down at this point. I'd almost rather. I think they might be better off going with Jameis.
CJ Stroud is the real deal, Larry.
Oh my God! Yeah,
the Texans beat the Bengals in one of the games yesterday that really upset a lot of survival pools. I bet that no one really expected that, and you got to give D'Amico an awful lot of credit for the way that he has put this, rookie quarterback in winnable situation after winnable situations. It's like I don't want to say dumbed down. That's he has streamlined the playbook to accentuate what Stroud is comfortable with. And when you got a first-year coach doing that's a good sign. The Texans are a lot better this year than they were last year and got to feel great about their future with CJ Stroud, who's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and they've got some pretty good offensive line play there going right now. The Bengals only got 1 sack all day. They only had 4 hits on the quarterback. I mean, they do a great job of protecting Stroud. Singletary ran for 150 in this game. Devin Singletary's now reemerged in Houston. They didn't even have Nico Collins. He was out, but they drafted this kid Tank Dell out of Houston, who's just, big play guy. And he had 6 catches for 56 yards. He got in the end zone. And then defensively, they've made a lot of good calls. I mean, D'Amico's a really good coach, but I mean, going and bringing in Sheldon Rankins had 3 sacks yesterday and 4 hits on the quarterback on Joe Burrow. So, they hit with the kid out of Alabama in the top of the first round. They hit with Stroud. They hit on Rankins. I mean, they've got some nice pieces there. They've got 2 pretty good tackles. They've got some good weapons. Houston's going to be a playoff team in the AFC, and as Stroud continues to play this way, they're going to be a force. They might be able to pull an upset in the AFC playoffs.
By the way, I think we can take the Mike Baker comment down. That's been up for like 10 minutes. But thank you again, Mike, for the compliment. The Steelers are the quietest 6-3 team in football.
By the way, Digital Drew, now a member for 9 months. He says, like the stream, sub to both channels, get a shirt, tell a friend, but most of all, Wilks moving mattered. Gonna die on this hill, Larry.
We're gonna fight them on the beaches and in the land. Dunkirk.
When Steve Wilks put his hands on Mooney Ward's shoulder pads and said, "That was a hell of a play, young man.
I believe in you.
I believe in you." Then he looked at Greenlaw and he said, "Trey, sweep the leg. Sweep the leg." And then he kind of used a motion like this, and he sweep the leg. That's what made the Niner defense step up yesterday.
Nick, I wasn't going to ask you for 1.5 sacks from way up there. But now that I'm down here, I'm asking you for 1.5 sacks. Get it for me. Get it for me.
Do it for me.
The Steelers, like I said, they're the quietest 6-3. It could be 6-5, though. Their next 2 games are at Cleveland and at Cincinnati. The Ravens were becoming the loudest team in football, but they lose a home game to the Browns, and now the Browns are 6-3. What is going on with this Cleveland Browns team? They might not be like they're not done, Larry. The Cleveland Browns are going to have something to say before this year's over.
Very weird team. I mean, they lose Nick Chubb for the year. Yesterday, they almost ran for 200 yards without him, of almost 5 yards a carry against the number 1 defense in the game. What the Browns are is really good on the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
They're really good on the line of scrimmage. They've got a good defensive line. They've got, talent on their offensive line. Myles Garrett might be the defensive player of the year. Amari Cooper's got crazy ball skills. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt have stepped in without Chubb and have been really good. I mean, Jerome Ford ran for 6.3 a carry yesterday. It's all about Deshaun Watson. Can Deshaun take care of the football and play good ball? He's got decent receivers, Njoku, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. And then defensively, Koromoa's amazing. He had 7 tackles and a half sack yesterday. They added Zadarius Smith. Myles Garrett's great. They're great in the back end, too. I mean, Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward. These are some of the best defensive players in the game.
Yeah.
Martin Emerson had a huge game for them. Grant Delpit. I mean, Thornhill. That's a really good defense. And the guy that just makes me sick is the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I mean, I absolutely knew this guy was going to be fantastic, and he's every bit as good as I thought. I mean, he is just really, really good. They got him in the second round, 52nd pick overall.
The Lions,
linebacker.
Larry, the Lions are 7-3. The Chargers lose yet another one possession home game. It's like it's the same movie every weekend for the LA Chargers. But let me just set up who the Lions are, how they've started, and where it probably goes here. The Lions are probably the first or second seed in the NFC, just based on the fact that they're already 7-3. They're riding a 2-game winning streak right now. And their next games are, I mean, they just got a lot of winnable in front of them, even though this is a tough league and you never just assume you're going to beat anybody. But the next opponents for the 7-3 Lions are the Bears, the Packers, at the Saints, at the Bears, Broncos, at Vikings. They could easily go 4-2 in that 6-game stretch. They could go 5-1 in that.
The road to the Super Bowl could roll through Detroit this year.
It could. It really
absolutely
could.
Jared Goff's playing great. Yeah. And they've got 2 backs that are really good, and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They have the best young offensive line in the game right now. They got a true number 1 receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think it's their year because they don't rush. Their defense has lost a lot. You know, they lost Emmanuel Mosley for a year. They didn't get any sacks yesterday. Even Aiden Hutchinson's like a one-man gang on their defensive line. But they're coming. I think they're a year away from being, if they have another great draft, they're probably a year away from being the team in the NFC to look for in the future.
The Seahawks are a quiet 6-3, but the Seahawks are about to hit the single hardest 5-game stretch I think anyone has in football all year, Larry. The Seahawks do. They got the Rams coming off of a bye week coming up on Sunday. Then it's the 49ers on Thanksgiving. Then they're at Dallas, then at the 49ers, and then they play the Eagles. Like, that's a brutal 5-game stretch. The Seahawks are 6-3. There's a very good chance that they're 6-8 after this 5-game stretch. It's savage. Again, Rams off a bye, 49ers at Dallas, at 49ers, Eagles. You can't find a harder 5-game stretch.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle's got some good players. Devin Witherspoon, I think, is as good a rookie corner as I've seen in a long time. He's just fantastic. But they added Leonard Williams and Frank Clark to their front line, but I don't think they're good enough on the defensive line. And Geno, I don't really believe in Geno in crunch time. And then they at the end of the day, it's like Seattle the last couple of years hasn't done a great job stopping the run. They gave up almost 5 yards a carry to the Commanders yesterday. Jackson Smith, the rookie receiver, has been just okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that you can throw like against Seattle. I think the Niners are going to have a field day throwing to McCaffrey. Brian Robinson, the Commanders running back yesterday, caught 6 balls on 6 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Gibson, their other back, 5 catches on 6 targets. So they threw 11 passes to 12 passes to their running backs and completed 11 for 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns. I think the Niners are going to be able to throw it to their backs all day.
Finally, the Buccaneers, who get to Levi Stadium on Sunday, are like a decent 4-5. I mean, there's no reason to try to pretend what they're not doing when they're doing some things that are kind of impressive. Look, there are no easy games out there. But I'll say this, when they face the elite of the NFC, they've been kind of slapped down a little bit. They lost by 2 touchdowns to the Eagles. They lost by 2 touchdowns to the Lions, but they were in 1 possession losses to the Falcons, Bills, and Texans, and all 3 of those teams are okay. They just beat the Titans at home on Sunday. So, all I'm telling you is that a good way to lose to the Buccaneers would be to look past them. So if the Niners don't do that, I think that they handle their business. They're going to be favored. They'll probably be favored by, 8 points going into this game with a home game in the Buccaneers. But Buccaneers aren't bad, Larry. Like Baker Mayfield is having an okay year.
Yeah, and he's got, he's got some really good receiving weapons. Mike Evans had a huge day yesterday. Chris Godwin can catch the ball and run a route. Rashad White, was a factor in the pass game yesterday. The tight end, Cade Otton's a little underrated. But to me, what's scary about them is the other side of the ball. Antoine Winfield is playing his ass off. He's the safety. And they had 13 hits on the quarterback yesterday. 13. That is a ton. Vita Vea, Yaya Diaby, the rookie from Louisville, Shaq Barrett, Kalijah Cansey, the rookie from Pitt, Devin White. All these guys had multiple hits on the quarterback. Winfield got one himself.
By the way, it's coming in. You got a gambling-centric audience here saying the Niners are already -10, -10.5, depending on where you look. So there you go. I was underestimating -8. So,
but I'm just saying the Niners' offensive line is going to be challenged. The Niner defensive backs are going to be challenged. They better be ready to go next week because those receivers are real, and those defensive players I just named, every one of those guys is real. So, Buccaneers can put heat on the quarterback and make things a bad day for the Niners by, disrupting the rhythm of Brock Purdy. So Niner O-line is going to be majorly challenged next week.
Larry, this was a great day for us. Great day for 49er Wake Up. Thanks to so many people for coming on by. Again, hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Whether you're subscribing to me or Larry, you should be subscribing to both. What we have over here is really growing, and the takeover is real. I can't wait to see what this is a couple years from now, Larry. My God, much less this year. It's been a fun year. The 49ers are pointed in the right direction again. They're back on track for a season that could end in a very, very special way. It's good to see the truth of their season sort of come back to the surface in Jacksonville. Great win. Great show.
Great win.
Great partner.
We had a fun time. Thanks to everybody. Once again, if you'd like to be the sponsor of a 49er Wake Up, just DM me or Damon. Thanks to everybody, all the supers and all the people, all the commenters. And let's see, I think we have everybody. Oh, no, we have one more here.
Here you go, Larry. We have achieved
maximum. James Foster says, loss. I love the air horn. James Foster says, losses to Minnesota. Excuse me. Choking here. Losses to Minnesota and Cleveland don't look bad now. Wins against Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and Dallas look better and better. Lions, holes on defense, and at some point, Goff. Yeah, exactly. Do you believe in Jared Goff with money on the table? But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Damon, what do you got cooking on the channel the rest of the day today?
So we're going to we're going to do a little bit more 49er recapping. We're also going to talk some Warriors and some things that happened around the NFL when the show starts at 11 over on Damon Bruce Plus. Later on this week, Matt Mayoko is going to stop on by for a 49er State of the Union. I really thought we needed to see the results in Jacksonville before we knew what the State of the Union was. Now that those are in, I'm looking forward to talking to Matt Mayoko at some point in time this week. I'm sure you and I will be circling back together. We'll be tapping into someone maybe in the Tampa Bay media to start previewing that game later in the week. Some really interesting stuff going around Bay Area sports and beyond. And I look forward to everyone hopefully subscribing and coming on over. Show starts at 11. What do you got coming up, Larry?
I think I'm going to be doing some videos. Kyle talks later today, so I'll do a reaction video there. It's Monday, so I normally join Grant at some point at today, so we'll visit with Grant. I think tomorrow Dave Lombardi is going to be in the house on the Krug Show. Wednesday is the call-in show with Kev. Thursday it'll be Vish and I reuniting, and it feels so good. Friday will be me and Chase Sr. I'll be down at the Niner Complex on Wednesday and Thursday. Saturday, the coach joins me. Sunday, we'll be ready for Niner football, and we'll, of course, be reacting to all the scintillating Giants Shohei Ohtani rumors. We'll get into that. We'll talk a little Warriors. I'll do a bunch of videos all week long, so keep your channel locked on the Krug Show. One thought, though, before we jet, I am seeing that CeeDee Lamb this morning has said after his third straight game with 10-plus catches on 150-plus receiving yards, I'm the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Okay, whatever.
Who in your mind, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL? Because in my mind, it's not CeeDee Lamb.
I don't know if anyone's having a more impactful career than A.J. Brown, right? Or an impactful season for the Eagles.
He's been great this year.
Yeah.
What about, I would say it's either, to me, it's a Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams,
Puka Nacua.
Jamar Chase. Jamar
You're
Chase.
no Puka Nacua, buddy. I've met Puka Nacua. You're no Puka Nacua.
I know Lloyd Benson. That was Lloyd Benson's line. I knew John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was a friend of mine. Absolutely. Let me tell you, sir, you know John F. Kennedy. Great stuff. All right, I'll say Jamar Chase. Come on, Jamar Chase. How could you not go with Jamar Chase? Damon, have a great day. Peace to everybody. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Ike Sandwiches. Have a great Monday. And to all you Brock Purdy haters, enjoy your day.